back.
Yes. Okay.
Back for the first time tonight.
My apologies, chat, as I've so cleverly mentioned just now to our guests here. We lost two mics, Asian mic and my mic, which is also Asian, I think. It's from HP. Anyway, welcome into the first episode of API Vtuber Talks. I'm your host, AtramentumX, writer, streamer, and YouTuber. I'm joined tonight by these lovely gentlemen, and we're talking about Asian masculinity in online and VTuber spaces. Welcome in, welcome in. We're going to have our guests introduce themselves, starting with, and look at his new model, by the way, Cootie.
Hello, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cootie. I'm a yandere changui kungpei boss villain VTuber. I mostly do horror, and I'm very happy to join Atra and these fine guys here and our talk tonight.
When your voice is so deep, you have no idea what the fuck he said, but you don't want to interrupt him.
Welcome back to the Deep Voiced Asian Male podcast.
I'm just sitting there, I'm like, everybody here has amazing voices, and I'm like, that is me.
No, you've got a good
Don't
voice,
worry.
too.
We're your protectors. We won't let anyone say shit.
They were joking before streaming. This was a manhwa chapter.
Yuichi is like some kind of like Korean Chinese prince.
Exactly. I can even go in and like, what was it? You can't see my face.
But yeah, thank
No,
you.
there he is.
Thank you, Cootie. Next up, we have Meandering Otaku, aka Yuichi.
I was not fully ready for this. I am Yuichi Aizawa, the proprietor of the Effin Item Shop. I'm just a variety streamer, and I'm honored to be here, honestly. I didn't think I'd be on one of these for quite some time.
What's your other title, Yuichi?
The proprietor of the Effin Item Shop, or the Meandering Otaku?
You got a third one. Starts with a U.
I have a... Oh, yes. Uncle.
Welcome in the uncle to the show. I guess it's a podcast. Yeah, welcome to the uncle to the podcast.
Uncle Yuichi.
Uncle Yui.
Yui is bringing his seasoned perspective to today's pod as one of my peers in the 30s, upper 30s range, /40.
Yeah,
He's actually 137 years old.
Yeah, canonically 137, in Korean years 35, and
Wait, he's not Korean?
Oh.
Where are you?
no, he's
No. I'm
Okay, I was gonna say. I can't believe I didn't recognize a fellow brother.
Speaking of Koreans, Dancho Horang, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello.
Yeah.
Greetings, I am Dancho Horang, boss of the Golden Tiger Casino. We are here to talk about Asian American history and all of our wonderful perspectives coming through it.
And tell us a bit about yourself, Dancho.
Well, I am shiny.
You are shiny.
Dancho is a variety streamer. He's a Korean white tiger.
Golden Tiger.
Golden tiger.
No, I'm the white tiger.
Sorry.
Oh man, he's mixing the Koreans up. Listen,
no.
man. Just because one of us has hair, the other doesn't make us twins. Wait, does. Cootie, give me your hair. We'll see exactly how much we put in.
Oh my god.
And last but not least, Asian Mike.
Hey, I'm
He's
Asian
down there, by
Mike.
the way, everyone.
Yeah, I'm the small guy. Pretty much just a graphic designer, shit post, and occasional streamer. That's pretty much it. And I also do talent management for some tubers.
That's right. Asian Mike is a manager and a man of many talents. Graphic designer, artist, bodybuilder,
Bodybuilder.
Occasionally, all right. Don't pump me up, all right. Don't hype me up.
Hey, pump him up.
Now hold up. I'm gonna need to ask you about your services later.
We actually can get into that, by the way, about the lift more sort of like mentality that's like sort of permeates online spaces. Like, are you sad?
I mean-
Lift more.
Yeah.
Yeah, just just lift more.
Yeah, lift more.
You know, it's that meme of like you never want to go on a machine after a depressed, heartbroken teenager because they have that sad boy strength where like you think you're strong, and then you walk up to a maxed out machine and you're like, oh, it'd be fine, and then you're like, he weighs like $120. How is he?
He's wiry.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's wiry. He's got angst.
I mean, he's got a lot of practice in his arms.
Oh God.
Arm.
It's starting already.
Hey man, man could be using both hands, all right.
True. Ambidextrous.
All right. Well, chat, we've got a list of questions prepared, but if you have any questions at all for our panel, feel free to drop them in chat. We'll get to them as we get to them. But we're here to talk about, on this National API Month, the Asian masculinity. Just realized I cannot go to the questions because I've got Mike on the screen share, so whoops. But
I got the questions up if you want me to run through them.
I've got it in my head, I think. Yeah, so I guess the first question I want to ask is about, okay, well, actually, no, that's a good question from Dank in chat as a good sort of starter. What's your favorite food from your native culture?
Native. I was gonna say ramen.
Yes.
You just have to say ramyun instead of it. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
You know what?
True.
We don't have gourmet. We only have like the fastest like instant ramen packages out there. I actually hear some Japanese prefer ramyun over like the ramen that's like outside their quarters, but yeah. I mean, if we're talking native, then I actually really love kimchi puchinge, which is, Korean crispy pancakes.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, my grandfather, bless his soul, made the best ones I've ever had. I wish I knew how exactly he made it, but unfortunately, it's not a taste I can get again, so I look at it with fond memories.
That's a good one. Korean pancakes are deceptively tricky sometimes to get that good crispy texture.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can either make it too thick, too thin. My grandfather made it perfectly, but he straight up went Asian. He would like get out his hands, a little spatula with like a wooden weaved straw. You know those like wooden, not wooden, but like those straw weaved like plates and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like he would like bring that out, cook it on like a little portable stove. Like he literally cooked it right in the middle of his retirement home, like the living room. And I would just eat it with my hands. I'm just like, this is a guilty pleasure I never realized till now.
That sounds great.
It
was. Yeah, no, it's just I try all the time to make it like the way he did, but I just can never do so. My mother can't do it, my father can't do it, and like I wish I could go back in time.
I honestly feel like consistency is a really hard thing with that because like the amount of like kimchi juice you use versus the amount of water and eggs, like anything that's a little bit too much throws off the total balance of that.
Oh, completely.
Yeah,
And,
probably
like,
every
yeah.
one of the ingredients were like prepared a certain way too. That's why we got that flavor.
And what I really like about like puchinge, the Korean pancakes, is that there's so many ways you can make it and so many toppings you could put in it too. You could put like seafood, beef, vegetables. There's so many ways. All you need is the batter. It's not that hard to make either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to stop talking about my own personal favorite before I get super hungry.
Understandable.
Somebody take over. God, my mouth is drooling. I can't speak properly.
Cootie, how about you? What's your favorite food from your background? I know we didn't actually say our backgrounds when we introduced ourselves, but
Well, Donju and I are both Korean.
Oh yes.
Oddly
I
enough,
am-
my favorite. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that I'm Vietnamese, so people know.
What kind of Asian are you, Asian Mike?
I am Korean as well.
Wow.
did not know
Wait,
that.
Atra. What? Hold up, Atra.
Yui, sorry, this is an ambush.
Where's
You
your-
might want to start running.
Where's your background check?
It's okay. I grew up with Koreans too. One of my best friends is Korean. He's like a brother to me. So this is my natural habitat.
He's like a fucking polar bear living among the panda bears.
This is just Los
100%.
Angeles in the studio right now.
Play the theme song.
I'm just here like the lone East Coast Asian. Like, yeah, no, these are the Westies.
Wait, but as a fellow Korean brother, Cootie, what is your favorite though? I gotta know.
So something that I never really talked about is that my grandmother actually had a restaurant back in Korea, and a lot of restaurants in Korea.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Oh
We lost him.
no!
Oh no.
Goody!
He was about to reveal his secret recipe. Oh no, he just
Oh damn!
we are down one bodyguard, Mr. Vietnamese president. Please come to the secret room.
Right. We'll just keep an eye open.
Yeah, he's still in the call, but I think his internet just like
You might have lagged out. Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're
we-
waiting for him to come back, Yui, tell us why pho is not your favorite and what is your actual favorite?
Well, I was gonna say pho. It's actually not my favorite.
Good.
I love making fun jokes, but for people who are not Vietnamese, you're gonna love the name of this one. It's called bun cock.
Mm.
Yes, that's how we pronounce it. Bun cock.
I'm going to assume that it's completely different from how it sounds.
Yes, very much. It's actually spelled BANHKHOT. So if you guys know bun sale, it's similar.
Yes.
It's like a yellow, and it's usually like a little, like the pockets that they use to make like takoyaki. It's kind of that same pocket, but we don't roll it. Instead, we put a little bit of like pork and like shrimp on top of it. And you do it with fish sauce.
Mm.
I just read here they're also savory mini pancakes apparently. Like
Yes.
translated. Is that actually it?
Pretty much. It's not the same flavor as pancakes, but just like how they have okonomiyaki, they compare it to pancakes, but it's
Okay, so you got the
Yeah.
Japanese pancakes, the Korean pancakes, and the Vietnamese pancakes. You know
It's just
what?
like
We
a
love
catch-all for like
pancakes
what you make on a
themselves.
griddle, I assume. Then, yeah. Like, is it made on a
Yeah.
griddle or?
it's you ever see those like bubble like
Yes.
snack things?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's pretty much what the grill looks like when we cook it. It's
Like a
So, and we-
takoyaki pan, yeah.
yes, but it's like less round. It's like takoyaki. They usually end up spinning it and like to make it the full on ball. We just leave it as is and it cooks that
Mhm.
way.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I grew up loving that stuff. I've eaten it all these years. Usually, sometimes you have lettuce with it too, which is really good.
Mm. That's a pretty solid choice, I'd say. I actually haven't had it though. I'm looking forward to having it at some point.
I love it.
Guess who came back ready for all that hype?
My guys.
Although I don't know if chat heard that.
I'm not
I think
sure
so.
Oh my
For
God.
those who
We
you
did?
did. Okay. Damn.
Oh my god.
I
Welcome
mean,
back,
that's one
Cooch.
way to make a re-entry.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was ooh, not sure what happened there. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I assume it'll pop you back into the collab once you reconnect. But
yeah,
while we're
there we go.
waiting, why don't you tell us about your
Mhm.
favorite food?
Maybe perhaps we should move to Asian Mike since Cootie
Oh.
is not. Oh, never mind.
Fam.
Taking a stand. It's his turn to talk.
Hey, yo, Yuichi, look the other way. You might grab a snack real quick. This is a fucking yaoi.
It's like, well,
Oh my
Oh
God.
my
So-
god.
got a close up of his sword there.
Mm.
Is that? Are you happy to see me, or is that a sword in your pocket?
You know, it's just very exciting to be in here with a lot of other Asian creators because you know, you guys have been proving to be pretty good people so far. um, you were okay. So, what did you hear before my internet decided to explode? By the way,
You were saying
Well, yeah, you were just about to tell us what your favorite food was from your grandmother's.
I think it was
restaurant?
grandmother,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
my grandmother had a jjajangmyeon restaurant,
Ah.
Ooh.
which is really the Korean take on Chinese food, if you think about
Mm.
it.
It's for
Um,
those who don't know, it's black bean paste sauce over noodles.
Mhm, mhm. And it'll have and depending on the recipe, it'll have bits of meat, beef, pork, seafood, like shrimp, for example, normally served with shredded cucumbers and things like that. And it's a really big comfort food for me. So whenever I go to a place and
Same.
I just want to figure out if I'm gonna like their food, I'll start with a jjajangmyeon and then be like, okay, we'll see. But yeah, that's mine.
Very cool.
Mm.
Mike, how about you?
Okay, so mine may be a little bit of a faux pas. I do not feel comfortable trying to pronounce it, even though it's from my own culture. It's the Korean version of taiyaki. It's the pastry with red bean paste inside.
Oh,
bongopon?
the.
It's like bujang on pang. Beyond on Pong?
I know what you're talking about. My
Yeah,
mother
like-
loves that. My mother loves that stuff. Bunke.
Yeah.
But, I'm not Korean enough for this shit.
Yeah, I'm not Korean. I'm not Korean enough for it either.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'll be
if
right
it's-
back. I'm gonna ask my mother how you pronounce it.
Yeah, go for it. Help a brother out. But yeah, I love street food, and I always grab that when I'm done walking around Korea. And then
Mm.
I'm a simple man. I love anything with kimchi. I will
Mm.
eat that shit every day. I love kimchi.
Oh, you're thinking about bongopon, right?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. I was thinking pagopong because it's the one that has vanilla ice cream in with it as well. But you're just doing just the red bean one, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that Danjo's frozen right now because he went to go talk to his mother.
He's sunlocked.
I mean, just pressing matters.
Can't
But
believe the bullshit he just heard.
I was gonna ask the next question. I realized I can't ask with the Dancho here, so I'll say my own favorite food. So my background is I have Indian ancestry, but my ancestors went to the Caribbean in the 1800s. So I've got a little bit of Caribbean heritage as well as Indian heritage too. And I frankly love lamb curry, or goat curry even.
Mhm.
Goat curry especially is a specialty of the Caribbean because goats are easier to raise.
Mm.
This is a question from Noemi VT. How much kimchi can you stuff in your mouth before
I
it's too
got it.
spicy? Yes, Dan.
What was that? What was that fucking question? What? Who the fuck asked a Korean how much kimchi can we stuff in our mouth? What the fuck?
I know, right?
There was no Emmy.
Then again, stuffy bunny is a thing, so I guess I can't blame that kind of question. But I found it's called bungeopang.
There we go.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you.
as soon as you left, Cootie thought of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see how it is.
I'm sorry, Nacho. I'm sorry.
All my
I
hard
should hold
work
it
for
back.
nothing.
Stole your thunder.
No, we've confirmed. We confirmed.
Lightning and the thunder.
So I'm going to move us on to one of the questions, which is about
Mhm.
representation. So
Mhm.
a common refrain for, especially when I was growing up, probably for you guys too, was that Asian male media representation tended to be just very one-directional. You were nerdy, you were kind of effeminate. Like there was plenty of like examples from the 80s and the 90s of like very one-note stereotypical characters. So my question for you guys, growing up in the 80s and 90s as we did, who were your male role models, Asian or otherwise?
I mean, if you
Wait,
guys
how
are fine,
old
I
do
can
you?
start on
Wait,
this.
how old do you think I am? Old of 80s and 90s.
Well, 2000s for you, Doncho? Question mark.
I'm like, hold up, I wasn't even in existence during that time.
Are you
I was
Gen Z? This secretly just Gen Z this entire time, Doncho?
No, I'm 1996, but
Well, you okay? Fair enough.
Who
Growing
said-
up in
you
the
said
80s,
1800s,
90s,
I'm
and
like-
2000s. Yes, Danktopus, the guy with the most mature model is the youngest, I think.
wait, I am? Cootie, are you older than me?
Yes, I'm older than you.
Oh, Oppa!
Hold on.
Well, I'm getting up there in years, so it won't be too long now.
Don't you start, young man.
The audacity.
Wait, how about you, Asian Mike?
I am older than you two.
I see you guys won't drop the age, but all right, I see. You know, I'm gonna act my age then. Oh, pars.
Okay. Growing up in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, who were your male role models growing up, Asian or not Asian?
If it's okay, I could start.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can just jump in whenever.
So I had a few, right? For non-Asian, I had Arnold Schwarzenegger being like
Oh,
the one of the best immigrant stories you could ever tell. The guy came over with literally nothing. His first Thanksgiving, people from his gym came by because he didn't have a table or chairs or plates or food. And they basically had a potluck and helped furnish his apartment for his first Thanksgiving in the US. And he went from that to where he's at now, right? Like the amount that he did to grow as a businessman and to really embody that kind of American dream for a lot of immigrants, I always thought was a really interesting side. So I always looked up to him. Plus, as someone that does strongman and does a bit of bodybuilding as well. Of course, I have a giant banner with him on with the whole conquer stereotype over it. So yeah, he's definitely one of the people that I looked up to when I was growing up. Bolo Young was another one because thick ass Asian. Typically, he also played villains 90% of the time, but you don't. Because the thing is that when you really looked at a lot of the Asians that were in popular media, they weren't really built like me. So I either had to look at Bolo Young or Arnie, right? As wide-shouldered big guys. And that was until Hwang Chul-sun which a lot of people will know as the Korean Hulk. He went viral for basically saying he got that big by eating chicken breast smoothies.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the
and-
whole chicken breast smoothie memes came around.
Yeah.
Is he the
yeah.
originator of that? That's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
he's,
it's funny. There's an actual Korean, like legitimate Korean Hulk in the comics now.
Yes, I did know about that.
mm. You know, they actually have basically a Korean Captain America, and his name is Taegukgi, which is the name of our flag.
I didn't know that actually.
I did not know
If you-
that.
Oh,
That's badass.
And then we also have Asian Spider-Man or Spider-Woman in this case.
Mm.
Silk.
We Korean domination.
And then finally, I think the big one that's been like a giant influence for me is, well, he's a man that goes by many names. He's either Ma Dong-seok or Ed Ma.
Hey,
Lee.
Madongsa, yeah, buddy.
Yes.
Like when he came out and really took America by storm, that was really empowering for me because he's a thick boy, like damn boy, he thick boy. Like on top of that, like, and especially in like Train to Busan, he was a very relatable and likable character, and it showed like there was this weird shift where instead of always looking for like the K-pop idol looking, guys, the gruffer and more wide guys started getting a lot more attention too. And I was like, okay, yeah. Plus, he also has a really, really interesting backstory because he wasn't originally an actor. And I think he was working a blue collar job in the States when he got the call up. So, yeah, interesting people.
It is interesting that you mention that because when you think about it, it's not like strong Asian men have never existed in like U.S. media because we have Bruce Lee's and we have like S.I. Hayakawa and like other like Asian hunks, but like they were wiry, they were martial artists. Like it is different to see now that there are other types of Asians who don't have to do martial arts to be recognized as strong or skillful, right?
Yeah.
The muscle daddies now get love too, which is nice.
Exactly. For chat who may not know, can you name a couple roles that Bolo Young might have been in? Was he in Mortal Kombat?
No. So he played a lot of villains. But Bolo ended up being
Bloodsport.
Yeah, he was in Bloodsport. He played typically, like, oddly enough, he played a lot of Korean villains. But he was in Enter the Dragon as Yangse. He was in Double Impact with Van Damme, Bloodsport with Van Damme.
Okay.
Yeah, like he was really big. Like he was picked a lot to be like the intimidating villain character for a lot of martial arts films.
Very interesting. That's a good one. I don't really hear that name mentioned a lot actually when it comes to like Hollywood and Asian men. Why don't we slide on over to Yui? Yui, do you have any thoughts on the question?
It's a little bit different for me, I guess, because for example, I don't really have a person that's a role model. A closest thing would be one of the actors who played the character of some influences for me. I grew up with a lot of Chinese movies. So when growing up, even though I'm Vietnamese, we don't really have much stuff that shows towards our culture. So a lot of the stuff that we had were Chinese movies that were just translated into Vietnamese.
It's interesting because I sort of have the similar experience that you did too, because one of my best friends in high school was Chinese Vietnamese. So like we had like this basically a little tablet and we'd sit on the subway in the morning and just watch like Hong Kong movies and like Chinese movies and like martial arts movies.
Yep, like Jet Li did a lot of acting for the parts that I actually
Jet Li.
was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
When he came over here, I was absolutely ecstatic because I'm like, oh, I know Jet Li. I know him as Wang Feihong.
Mm.
Wong Fei Hong, yes.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't
Once
know
upon a
how
time in
it's.
China.
Yes. I know the Vietnamese like equivalents to it, and like even like the way I say it is more Vietnamese, unfortunately, because I watched it the dubbed. But like a lot of my moral compass comes from these movies, you know. And, like,
Those
just
are an interesting series because they sort of cover like the encroaching foreign influence into China. And then eventually he even comes to America for like I think the sixth like movie or something like that in the West.
yes, he does. He is there for quite some for a few movies, and just doing what he does. He helps people, and he fights for the good of every person, every man. You know.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, that's
But
a great
yeah,
example, I'd say.
mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting. It's having all that. But yeah, like culturally speaking, being Vietnamese, it's quite a bit that we link up with Chinese influence too, because we're culturally we have the closeness to it.
Mm.
There are the Vietnamese Chinese. I am purely Vietnamese, but I do have my father's side. We're in the central, where we have some people who are from mainland China. They kind of hung out over there.
So was your family part of the wave that came like after the war or a little bit later on, would you say?
My family was interesting. It's if you like note that my parents are divorced now, but if you looked at their situation when they came over here, it'd be a story. It would be it'd be like, you know, a fairy tale almost. My dad was from a fisherman family, very poor. They lived off of from fish, going out grabbing fish and selling it. My mom worked. Her grandmother or her mother worked for the Americans. Her parents worked for the French. They had
Oh.
mansion and everything. They were very rich. Both families ended up having to come here during the war, and they got separated. So my grandma and my mom got separated along with my aunt. So my mom and my dad ended up being helped or raised by the same family here in the United States. That's how they met.
Oh. Interesting.
Actually, I just want to say real quick that the famous Vietnamese pho, right? They actually say it was a French invention first before making it a mainstay in Vietnamese culture. Just wanted to say it. So when you said French thing, I was like, hey, yo, I got my history in me real quick.
Well, there's very heavy influence, like with banh, like, you know, like banh mi, for example, the baguette, like that's a big one. The pate, pate on it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Sorry,
both of those are
continue
really
though.
big.
Continue though, Yuji. I just thought that was like kind of cool that you mentioned that.
I appreciate that. It's great. That's great things to bring in too, because there are the French influence too on us also. Because like I eat pate all the time and banh mi. It's those just baguettes. But yeah,
They always rip the corners of my mouth.
The ones that aren't that good, I think. It depends on like how they make the bread.
Nah. If they rip every single like part of your mouth, you know it's good banh mi because that's how crispy it is.
Yeah, no, that's true too. That's true too.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to go back to our like food conversation, but it's just like you know, Asian food has so much cultural significance.
Yeah, no, food is very important in Asian API culture. I'd say it's one of the biggest things.
Oh yeah.
It's like rife with memory, like it's nostalgic, it's heritage, it's like, you know, it's bound up in colonialism and imperialism too, as you see like Vietnamese food.
Oh yeah, yep. I just find it funny. We all probably knew this when we were growing up, but like we had to hide our Asian food for people, right?
Oh, you talking about the stinky lunch story?
Yeah. But I feel like everyone went through that. Like, you know, Cootie, you and I, and Asian Mike too. Us three know like the difference between kimbap and sushi, right? But but Americans didn't. Some of them still don't know. So whenever I
Yeah.
brought like my mom's hard made like kimbap to school, they're like, "Oh my god, can I have some sushi?" And I'm just like, I always had like mixed feelings. Like, do I want to be popular or do I correct them?
Yeah, that happens with us too
Yeah,
in
that's
fish
fair.
sauce because we use fish sauce for so many different
Mm.
things, and people just can't stand the smell.
Yeah, like oh man, like I can't tell you how many bottles of 3 craps I have inside the kitchen just because
That's
like
so good.
oh my God, in Korean cooking it's used so much as well.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like like me mother, she would use that everywhere, right? But I had a aversion to seafood or anything fish, so she started taking that out, but it wasn't the same. So I'm like, I will make this one exception. So put in the fish sauce.
The fish sauce is fine.
Fish sauce is pretty good.
But sorry, go back to your role models, Yuichi. Sorry, I didn't mean to detract from this conversation.
You're good. You're good. That's honestly, I think that's pretty much it. It was just Jet Li and what was it, Jackie Chan, really? Because those are.
Mm.
Mhm. I don't know. I mean, there's a few other people who had influences, but they're mainly not for the actor themselves, but as the characters that they played.
Mm.
Like, I don't remember the guy's name, but you know the guy from he was in Kill Bill, the Chinese guy with the beard. He does the
Oh,
beard stroke.
You?
That-
Oh no, I'm thinking about Rush Hour. Never mind. Sorry.
Two very different movies.
So you said old man stroking his beard. I'm like, is that you? No, not you, me.
Well, I am you.
Yeah, pay my.
No, not you. I mean, okay.
Yes, pay my.
It's like one of the best Asian jokes ever.
I use it all the time because I use the name you. I'm like, yes.
I'm not gonna lie, I had that happen to me one time. It's like I was asking for a guy and it's like, you? No, not me, him. It's like, yeah, that's you. No, that's not me. That's
Having a full
and then
who's on first moment.
Absolutely.
and this was like this was when I was like a young kid. I'm not sure if Rush Hour 2 came out at the time, but that's exactly what happened. When I saw it later, I just like, oh my god, this actually happened.
Oh my God.
That's amazing.
I think it's interesting because, like, if you grew up like in any like diverse community, there's 2 movies that really stood out, and that was like Rush Hour. Like, if you like among like your peers who were like Americans and such, like Rush Hour 2 and Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, like are the 2 movies with like Asian people in them that everybody knows.
Yeah.
True.
It was one of the more positive like Asian models too, because typically when you saw Asian actors in media, they usually fall into the same categories, being I speak like this or no other language, or they're like the silent martial art types, like the Green Hornet reboot.
Kato, yeah.
It's Kato. Yeah, so it was kind of interesting to see like actual Asian people being people.
Yeah, either that or quite often they end up being the villains. Always.
Yeah.
It's like,
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that. I thought, wow, Asian people could be bad. Hell yeah.
I like to see both sides of the spectrum,
Look, as long as I don't have to be the annoying landlord from Breakfast at Tiffany's, I'm fine. all right?
Yeah.
The Asian that was played by a non-Asian with
Mickey Rourke,
the
I think.
worst.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I
Actually,
mean,
I forgot
if
one,
we
I think
talking
that,
about if we talk about like Asian replacements too, like are you gonna have the Asian one not be like Asian in the Marvel movie?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do like her as an actor, but I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah, I don't blame the actor, but it's just
Yeah.
like the fucking last Avatar too, like Aang becoming Ong. Like, are you
Yes.
serious, man? On God, I hate this.
Oh God. Oh my God.
That entire movie just like wiped out all the Asian influences and just made each like tribe like, okay, the Fire Tribe's Indian now. And it's like, what is the basis
Mhm.
behind that? It's like there is none.
Yeah.
That's just how they casted it because they had Dev Patel as
Yeah.
like, Zuko.
Yeah, and like if we're talking about like positive role models, especially within the acne industry, right? Like one famous one that recently got a certain spotlight. I forgot his name at the top of my tongue, but it's Uncle Iroh. In the latest last Avatar reboot.
Oh
Like
yeah, from Kim's
yeah, dude.
Convenience.
Yeah. So I started like it's funny. Kim Convenience started showing up in my algorithm, and I never watched it until now.
Oh,
I'm
it's
just like,
so
I
good.
love this guy.
It's
I love this
it's
guy.
so good.
Yeah, I'm sad that they never resolved it because apparently the season finale is a mess. But
Yeah.
we're gonna put that behind us because whatchamacallit, I do believe that nowadays there's a lot more positivity within those kind of acting careers for Asian people.
Yep.
I mean, one that I forgot that I think that was actually oddly interesting was do you guys remember Rain?
Rain Shadow Legends.
Rain from Rain the Korean pop star.
Yes.
Oh.
So Rain was a ninja assassin.
Oh yes, he was
And-
in GI Joe.
Yes.
I think that's
And-
how he got the most famous, actually, or like how he
The-
made it to the states.
Well, what happened was after Ninja Assassin, he had to go into his mandatory service. And that's why he
I see.
disappeared for years.
Mhm.
But like Rain was another one of those characters where like he was a little bit bigger than the previous like martial artists you would see, right? And it was kind of the beginning, in my, at least in my opinion, of like the
The Korean
do I say
wave.
this?
Hallyu.
Well, it's a mix of the beginning of the Korean wave and the normalizing of more masculine male characters in Asian roles. Sorry.
No, I
It just popped into my head. I was just like, man, I don't know how I forgot that one.
Well, because like the
mean,
late 2000s into the 2010s, because like I was a high school student in late 2000s, like that's when like the Hallyu, the Korean wave started with the K-pop, and then it just kind of exploded. Like it was like a slow moving storm because did it like BTS obviously pours gasoline on that, but people were into it before that too.
Yeah. Like I think that them doing their entire YouTube series really brought it out even more. It was like just, I mean, dumping kerosene on the fire, right? Because like before it was like, oh, this is a pretty like steady, growth in popularity, and then that happened, and then it was like, oh, well, this is a giant signal flare now, and then a lot of people started kind of like surrounding around that.
Yeah, I think the biggest influencers, or one of the bigger influences of Hallyu was, Big Bang. Actually, like that shit was everywhere in my ears.
Yeah.
I'd often, it's funny, because of how much, ironically, with the increase of Hallyu, the Korean like wave that they call it, I was averse to it because so many people were into it. I didn't want to get into it.
That makes
I was
sense.
like a contrarian there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, contrarian there. I was like, I'm so tired of this shit no more.
Because you'll be on dating apps and like ladies would be like, "Oh, do you listen to K-pop? Do you know like this like?"
I mean,
I've had all the time.
Yeah, I've had a Tinder date where it was a yellow fever situation.
Korea booze.
Yeah.
Korea booze. Oh my god.
Yeah, and the stereotypes of Asians kind of made it in there. Like Cootie here don't have to worry about it, but me, I had to go through that shit.
Wait, what's that supposed to mean?
So Asian Mike, I believe I gabbed too much. if we wanna go back to the whole role model thing.
Yeah, sure. So growing up, Arnold for sure. That's a good one. Jet Li and Jackie Chan were definitely big role models for me.
Mm.
And then as I got older, I kind of found some other ones that I more or less aligned to for different reasons. So like Ronnie Chang, I love
Good one.
his like I don't give a fuck attitude. I love that one. Dr. Zhang from The Hangover, just like
Mm.
and I gravitate towards funnier people because I am not funny, so I try to like learn from them on how to be funnier because I was always growing up I was more or less ostracized, so I tried to be like the class clown comedian type. And then as I got older I was just like, oh, I could just lift weights like Arnold and I could get bigger and I don't have to fit that stereotype anymore. And like another one is Dr. Johnny Kim. Dude was an astronaut, Navy SEAL, Harvard doctor, and now is a Navy pilot. The man has done it all, and it's just like pure inspiration for just keep going for your dreams.
They're sending him to the moon, I think, right?
I don't know. I haven't followed up on him in a while, but yeah, he is an astronaut, so it's very possible.
Yeah, there's a cadre of astronauts right now that are being prepped to go to the moon in 2025, 26, 27. I believe there's 2 or 3 Asian American
for real?
astronauts among them. Yes. Yeah.
Hey, yo.
Yeah.
Oh, I did
yeah.
not know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then Liu Xiaojun, Chinese power lifter. Dude's insane. Love watching his form and his like stability workouts because his coaches come and they just do like the most unconventional things and then it works and somehow he gets stronger and I don't understand it, but I follow him because of some of his lifting techniques and his lifting cues that he talks about.
Bunch of great examples. I really like identify with using humor to sort of break tension because I find that a lot of people assume just based on stereotypes that Asians are humorless or potentially don't really fit in or don't understand cultural references.
Yes.
And I that is definitely changing now. I think the internet has helped majorly in exposing people to a wide variety of different kinds of people, you know?
Absolutely.
And in fact, we'll be touching on this in episode 2 when we go back to the late 2000s / early 2010s and we look at the first YouTubers. And we talk about some of the people who started trailblazing a different way forward for Asian Americans and content creators.
Ah, yes. Higa TV. We got Kev Jumba. Man, those were the days.
Are you all familiar with Wong Fu Productions?
Oh, yes. Wong Fu
Yeah.
Productions. I never watched them personally, but I was aware they existed. They just never popped for me.
Yeah, you're too young.
Okay. Ages.
No, but I remember like their breakout hit was like called Yellow Fever. And it was a skit about like them trying to find dates with Asian women and then finding that like the Asian women were all dating white guys. And while it has not aged particularly well, I will say it definitely was a popular thing to talk about among my high school, by the way, was 70% Asian American. So it was definitely something that like started that conversation. So I do wonder, like for the single guys in the call, like when it comes to dating, do you see like particular tropes or things come up when talking to different women about, you know, Asian or not Asian, essentially? What are some tropes you see as when you're dating out there?
I will put forward that it's I have been out of the game for many, many years for reasons.
Are you asking like what tropes that the potential like dating people are asking us? Or...
Like, what are some, like, do you see them having any sort of like expectations about you or like some, yeah.
So I guess I can kind of talk on that because I'm still somewhat in the game. Is the K-pop thing that was like that's one of the biggest one. That is still a big one. Someone I was dating previously, they were a huge K-pop fan, and like Yeah, I knew like a couple of them. Like I knew BTS and Big Bang and Blackpink. I like Blackpink.
Mm.
But
Bless their
like
souls.
yeah, but like that's a big one because they kind of expect that like watch K dramas and
Mhm.
you listen to K-pop. The other one was like there's an expectation that you're like a really good cook, and it's just like no, I'm a terrible cook.
That's a big one. They're always asking me to cook for them. I'm just like, why would you just assume I know how to cook?
Yeah, for sure. Like I can make some like really good egg whites on toast and like
Hey man, it can be hard to separate the yolk and the whites.
Oh,
Okay.
bro, it is for sure. That's a big one that I've kind of noticed nowadays. That there's not. I don't think there's really anything else. I think what surprises a lot of people is if you work out just like a little bit and you have some muscle definition, they're like absolutely shocked. Like, you work out? It's like, yeah, like people do that, and it's very much like breaking the stereotype. And I know we could probably go into that later, but that's like an anti-trope I think you would observe when in the current dating field, is that they don't expect it. They still expect the Asian dude to like just not be that muscular.
Exactly.
The stereotype still exists of being a skinny guy.
Thin guy, glasses, average hair,
Yeah.
straight hair. Yep.
Like I swear I get Samoan way more than I get anything else, just because they see giant framed Asian looking person and they're like, Samoan, right? And I'm like, no, Korean. Extremely Korean. Not even remotely Samoan. Like,
I'm gonna say, Cootie, I also get that quite a bit. They're like, bro, you're Samoan. Like, nah. It's like, you got some Samoan in you? Nah.
nah, don't know where you're getting that from, bud.
Exactly. The other one was Mongolian. I'm like, a little too far.
So, kind of gonna share my experience, right? So I don't have the same common experience that everyone else here had, because I'm large now because COVID weight, but back then I was your pretty typical, like, slim Asian with the average hair, believe it or not, and with the glasses and all that good stuff. But for me, my main problem was the fact that nobody could tell which Asian I was, specifically within, like, the common Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese, or Korean thing. And I grew up in a lot of communities where the largest Asian community is what they assume that you are back then.
Yeah.
Right. I've even had a few times when I was mistaken as Filipino because of how large the population was in the area where I lived. Right. And I can't say I really relate to the whole, like, the skinny part, because I grew up with a lot of martial artists as my role model. I believe I mentioned my role models, but I grew up with a lot of martial artists, so I was also into martial arts. So I was a pretty active kid back then, and everybody also expected me to be this muscular Asian because of the stereotype for Asians and martial artists, but also the fact that if you do martial arts, they assume that you're pretty athletic, right? So that's where, at least how I grew up within my Asian kind of insights around that kind of area.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's hitting on another trope for me when it comes to dating is, God damn it, not all of us know martial arts.
Oh yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I took Taekwondo and Hwarangdo, and then I took Aikido and Judo and did karate and Muay Thai. But that's because I just liked it.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
all know
yeah.
it. It's just like they're like, oh, you can protect me because you know martial arts, and I'm like,
Oh,
bold of
I've
you to
had that.
assume.
Yeah. Mhm.
There was no cultural
Yeah.
impulse for you to go like learn martial arts. You just liked martial arts, which I
Yeah,
yeah.
Well,
Well,
I wouldn't say there wasn't any cultural
yeah.
impulse because
the
it's because of
taekwondo
the
is
Asian.
pretty like
Yeah,
it's mandatory.
yeah. It was because of the Asian influences that I grew up with, at least with
Oh,
the
okay.
movies. My own parents, they pushed me to, learn the Korean stuff like Taekwondo and whatnot. But
Mm,
I wouldn't honestly. I can't say 100% if I was like white or Hispanic or any other ethnic group if I would still do martial arts. But that's a completely different conversation, right?
mm, mm.
But I know it's not particularly helping this case, but in my circumstances, it's kind of how that was for me at the very least.
Mm.
So when we go on to my own dating history, I joked with Cootie earlier. He doesn't have to deal with the quote unquote like Asian or the Asian stereotype because of how huge he is, right? But I've had one instance where I was only a yellow fever stereotype to the gal, even to my quote unquote size. That
Mm.
that definitely left a mark on me.
Like,
Wait, when you
I
say
feel
size,
like-
do you mean
Yeah, yeah.
Like I feel like Jimmy O Yang put it best when it comes to that, where he's like, if you ever get the compliment, it's like, hey, you're bigger than I thought you'd be. And then you have to like have your entire race on your back. And you're just like, let me give a pump for my uncle, a pump for my cousin.
Like 9 generations.
you're doing it for the culture.
It's like, look, I got a point to prove for my culture right now.
Every pose representation.
But something else I also found out within like Asian dating, right? Is it's not I'm not really talking about like tropes and whatnot, but something I've noticed is that for me particularly, I've had more success dating American women than I've ever had success dating my own Asian woman.
When you say
Particularly
American
with-
women, do you mean white women?
I'm not gonna say anything, but I've had a splendid variety of women.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, like I've noticed that a lot of Asian women are kind of averse to me, and I'm also adverse to Asian women without even really thinking about it, right? And I think it's for a variety of reasons. One is that as a Korean, I have been taught to kind of have high standards for both myself and my partner. And because of that kind of mentality, when I didn't have a high opinion of myself, I didn't go for other Asian women because for some reason, or when I grew up, I had the mentality where Asian women only sought high standard men, just like how I sought high standard women, right? And there could have been other factors that kind of worked into it, but at the same time, I don't believe we also had the same type of cultural balance there, right? Because if we want to go into this entire topic of like Asian masculinity isn't the kindest or the most progressive out there. It's actually pretty it's pretty
You're
back
correct.
there.
You're correct.
Yeah, it's pretty back there, especially when we're all of us are men here, right? And I'm not assuming anything, but I'm assuming that we're all at least male presenting.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Asian masculinity, it wasn't the most positive, in my opinion, growing up, because when I said high standards, right? What I meant also was that we had certain expectations as the man and you're the woman, so we had to act appropriately according to our culture. And then in this kind of value. And while I said I dated more American women, I still had those kind of like toxic ideals in my kind of mindset. So yeah, it wasn't. I'm not saying it's all bad, but there was a lot of things that I had often clashed with as both an Asian and an American, because these two cultures kind of clashed at times. You know, it's like respect your woman, and the other side says a woman should follow the man according to the Asian culture side. And something that kind of proved that point was that my best friend, I don't mean to like call him out per se, but
Yeah.
I had a conversation with his father, and he was talking to me. He was having that like, the Asian dad talk. He's like, all right, Therese, son. Oh, 1 second, sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when you look at like Reddit, for example, and you look at spaces where like young Asian men congregate, a lot of these these things do come up. Like there's frustration about like hypergamy, like, people dating like high value men or high value women, or like not being able to live up to expectations, like, and that manifests in some toxic ways sometimes. It could also be
And I think
positive
that-
too. Maybe it makes you go work out. Maybe it makes you improve yourself. But a lot of times it is kind of bitter too.
Yeah, and I mean, I honestly think that one of the most toxic traits that we inherit in ourselves a lot of the time, right, is, and it's funny because I was playing Ghost of Tsushima recently, and man, did I get moderately triggered. A great game so far. It's just that when they were talking about, what makes you a man, right? And one of them was control over your emotions. And there's a very large divide between East and West when it comes to male emotions, right? In the West, you normally have like the more explosive males being seen as like the stronger males, right? Where they're like a lot more vocal. Yeah, they're a lot more passionate, they're more vocal, and they're, but then on the Eastern side, having control over your emotions, not outwardly, exploding with being able to, keep that internally and still be seen as calm. In the West can be perceived as being passionless, but in the East, it's shown as being something that's a lot stronger to do, right? And because of that problem, a lot of young male Asians that I've met have a really hard time processing their own emotions, which then causes them to bottle them up more until they just have them explode eventually, right? And it's really self-destructive a lot of the time.
That is a fantastic point, actually. One that we definitely want to examine when it comes to the pandemic and Stop Asian Hate, because what you would see in a lot of these spaces is that frustration boiling over into wanting to get out on the street and beat people up because of like this anger towards like Asian elders and like femme-presenting people getting beat up in the street. Yeah.
That was,
The whole stoic and not showing one's emotions and kind of being the forward of like, this is how a strong man is one thing I've grew up a lot with. It's no matter how much abuse you get, you can just sit there and take it, because that is what a man
that's
does.
what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the mindset.
Yeah, it's just
Doubly so, especially as Noemi's saying in chat, like when you come to America and like you're subject to like being berated or abused, or if you're like, running a business or you're at the workplace or like you're just in general like in a vulnerable like position. You're not among your culture anymore.
Mm.
Mhm.
I mean, like I know. So I had a lot of emotional growth that I had to go through because at one point I actually moved halfway across the country to be with someone, and I had kind of been stuck in that similar situation where I didn't really have my community or my culture to kind of lean back on at the time. And at the time I was actually going through a lot of DV issues with my partner.
Mm.
And being a 6'8" power lifter, nobody really listens or would believe that that was a thing, right?
Mhm.
And because I had no outlet, like instead I just kind of internalized it because, oh, that's what you're supposed to do, right? So it's something that I've tried to promote a lot more, where it's like you don't have to be, a fucking, stoic samurai. It's not the 1500s anymore, right? It's okay to feel your feelings and to get them out healthily. Just don't explode. And if something's happening, talk about it.
Exactly.
Man, I am so sorry that happened to you, man.
Oh,
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
The timing.
The timing on that.
at least he got the point across.
He did. He did.
100%.
looks like all of our. It looks like we're all being interrupted tonight.
Yeah.
Discord just crashed.
But yeah, I mean, if we want to like kind of move on to that, right? It's like I know it's almost universal everywhere where men are like kind of told to like internalize our emotions, don't speak out on it, otherwise you look weak, right? But I think there's particular emphasis and specialization within the Asian community, at least for men, right? Where they say you have to always be a calm person, you always have to, you know, be the man of the house, take the responsibility. And that really messes with the person's like mindset growing up because you're so used to taking things in by yourself that you never asked to seek help from others. And in a sense, I feel like that makes the Asian person grow lonely as a result. That's why there's like a growing epidemic where people in Asia don't want to have kids. They don't want to deal with a partner anymore because they're so used to being alone. They don't know how to connect with folks anymore. But
It's interesting.
not. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like Kazan says in chat. It's the self-reliance. It's like being built up to sort of to bring on the expectations of your family, and then sort of the internalized pressure of like all those things culturally coming together to the point that you kind of just want to opt out of it and be like, nah, I can barely manage myself right now. Why would I want to bring somebody else into this?
Yeah, and age does matter within Asian culture, right? In terms of like the children, if you're the eldest, middle, and the youngest, right? Uh, as the Asian elders, or sorry, not Asian elders, the eldest of the Asian kids, right? You're kind of the one that's expected to lead. You're the one that's put the most pressure on, and you kind of hold yourself to that standard because you don't want to disappoint your parents or the people who have those expectations on you. But then when you crash, it's the hardest crash that you'll never recover from. If you're the youngest, then you are more or less neglected. You get that freedom, but you don't have any guidance, right? You're kind of left to your own devices because of the focus on the eldest son. So there's always those like disconnects. There's always those like expectations or lack of, right? So it's really a difficult like topic to sort of dive into completely without knowing firsthand how it's kind of like within that side.
Welcome back.
It's so good every single time.
Every single time.
It's
But
perfect.
I did want to get Mike's thoughts on this too. Mike's vis-a-vis like sort of the emotional sort of baggage trauma and like holding it in, so to speak. Like, do you have any thoughts on like the sort of like stoicism that is generally expected of like Asian men?
That is a very interesting question. So my family is very split. I'm half. So my Korean family lives in Korea, and then my American side lives here in the States, of course. And my American family is very much like conservative, man of the house, rah, you take charge and you're gonna hold your emotions in. And then when I go and visit my family in Korea, it's very interesting because they're somewhat more like, I don't know how to say it. It's like they're a little bit less conservative. They push for me to get in marriage like so hard because I am like amongst all my cousins, I am the oldest. So like I am the one that would carry on some lineage of our family. And they're putting that pressure on my shoulders.
Oh, the marriage pressure.
Yeah, like every time I go over there, my uncle's like, "Let's go. We're going to the marriage arrangement office so you can get your paperwork submitted." And I'm like, "No, we're not doing that." And my aunt is just slapping him on the shoulder every single time he brings it up, and my cousins are just like laughing and embarrassed for me, and just like, "This is my life." But the stoicism hits even harder when your family's in the military. So I've got that as part of my background as well. So thankfully, once I moved out of the house as soon as I could, I kind of grew out of that and went to college and learned more about like the world outside your periphery. Especially growing up in the South, there's just not a lot of acceptance of other ideas, needless to say. And I could go on, but it's a very complicated topic, and I think it really, what it kind of boils down to is like, what is the environment that you grew up in, and then like who in your household really shaped those formative years to understand like what your values are going to be, and then hopefully once you leave that place, you're able to experience other perspectives and grow, because that's the thing that scares me, is hearing people that are younger that are just like, I don't know what to do, and they're stuck at home. They can't leave because the housing market's a mess, and trying to live on your own and broaden your horizons is like near impossible.
I think that genuinely leads to a very strong mental health like crisis among young Asian Americans, because when you're colliding against like the expectations that your family has in you, if you're the oldest, the youngest, or whatever it is, marriage pressure, you've got careerism, you've got like God forbid you talk back to your parents in like some households, like
Yeah.
it just sort of like Noemi mentioned up top, 98% of Asian people were diagnosed with depression even before the pandemic. While I don't know how true that stat is, that sounds incredibly high. Like,
Yeah, I think something else to note is like, how in Japan there's like the whole like hikikomori lifestyle, right? The neat lifestyle. I feel like that kind of hits a little home, just because like, I talked earlier about how high the expectations can be on certain Asian men, and especially the eldest, right? And when I talk about that crash, that's hard to climb up from. I feel like that's what the hikikomoris are. Like, they had such high expectations put on them, and when they couldn't achieve it, they just fall into this like depressatory, solitary lifestyle, because they just don't know how to get out. And why even bother, because of like how much pressure they're there is that put him in that position. You know, it's. I'm not saying this is how it is all the time, but I feel like that's something that's a common, like, trope I see whenever I look at like hikikomoris. Not just like why did they become deadbeats? Not rather than just laugh at them, be like homeless at home kind of situation, right?
Yeah, like it's not even a
honestly, like-
Japanese only thing too, because China has the
Yeah.
same concept in tanping, like
Right.
lying flat. Like basically, I'm not
Mhm.
going to participate in this like rat race culture of like careerism and like climbing up of each other. Korean women have the 4B movement where they're like, we're not getting married. Like this culture is too oppressive for us, and like that should be okay for you to. They have,
Oh,
they
yeah.
accept that essentially, that we don't want to participate in this. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, and then you know you have Koreans living in like gaming PCs just because like it's cheap and they
Gamer
more or less
cafes.
get all their simulations there, right?
yeah.
So yeah, it's not a good situation overall.
It's traditional like values grinding up against capitalism, and like
Mhm.
that clash people are just opting out of because like not everybody wants to grind and like rise in like the career landscape and like earn like more money and save. Like there are people who don't want to be part of that.
Yeah, and like if you're not earning money, you kind of feel well useless rather than like I'll pick myself up. No, it's like if you don't earn a cent within the next second, and if you're jobless, then you just kind of feel worthless as an Asian and as a man, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's constantly pointed out to us all the time. Like especially when I was younger, I'll bring up one old thing from a long time ago for me. When I was in this first grade of no, second grade, I got a C.
Oh
My
no.
parents didn't say anything.
Oh, I felt that my heart
Yeah.
sank the second you said that.
Yeah. I beat myself up to the point where, as a child, I had a fever for 3 days.
Oh god.
The whole like
so-
you gotta go to school even if you're sick thing, huh?
Yep. I've actually crawled to school before. I made it
Same.
to about 2 blocks out, and I ended up having to sleep on the street for like an hour or two before I could crawl back home because I couldn't make it.
Oh,
Oh my god, how old were you?
Jesus.
At that time, I was in middle school.
holy shit.
Yeah, that's
I-
intense.
I've actually broken my wrist too on my bike, and if someone didn't call the cops to check on me, I would have walked to school and continued to go to school.
Yo, I actually went through a similar situation. I said this in my Discord. I think Atra might remember. One time I was going down a hill with my bike. I almost got hit by a car, swerved, and fell onto the curb, and my head smacked the concrete sidewalk several times. Right, but I brought my ass up, and I walked all the way to school with my bike. I wasn't biking. I was just like carrying my bike next to me as I'm limping to school.
Yep.
I made it in time, but then like the security guard at my high school, this was high school by the way, he saw that I was limping, and he noticed like these little like blackened marks on my face, like a little bruises. He asked, he's like, "Yo, hey, are you okay?" I'm just like, "Yeah, no, it's okay, it's okay. I gotta go to school. I gotta go to school."
Like you were gonna get in
And,
trouble for getting hit by a car.
yeah, and then actually, what's funny is the guy who almost ran me over obviously came out of the car. He's like, "Oh my god, are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm good. I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm gonna be late. Literally told him I'm gonna be late for school."
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
I actually had,
then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's more or less it. It's like I went to school despite being heavily injured because I had that Asian mindset where I can't be late for school.
School
I
is
got to get my
everything, yeah.
grades up.
It absolutely is.
And
Mhm.
I feel like that evolves into like the salary man, right? Because like I've had multiple times where like the worst. So there were 2 versions of this. There was once where I was on my way to work, and I was on the train, and I got a call from the same person from before,
Mm.
And she's like, hey, by the way, I decided I'm not going to work anymore and I'm just going to quit my job. And this is when I was working like 60 to 65 hours a week. And I had just gotten this like out of the black, like out of the red, back into the black. I was real excited to like not owe money, right?
Mm.
And the amount of stress that was coiled in my body, I ended up popping one of my ribs out of socket.
Oh my god.
Holy shit.
So I went to work and I showed up to work, hunched over, pale as a ghost. And I actually tried to like do my job, and my boss came over and was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. It's fine. It's fine. And then like 20 minutes later, she comes back and I'm like drenched in sweat. And she's like, I'm going to call you an ambulance. And I'm like, no. I don't need to go to the hospital. I go to the hospital and the doctors are like, how I walked like a mile to work from that train station.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
You must have been in shock or something.
No,
Adrenaline.
just I have a super high pain tolerance.
Bro's a fucking tank.
Jesus.
I had it happen about a year and a half ago again, where like I just lifted something wrong and just really strong back muscles popped it out of socket again. And like instead of like the forced like, hey, you need to go for our liability reasons, my new bosses were like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. My rib just popped out of socket. And he's like, go home. I'm like, no, I just need a couple of ibuprofen and some water. I'll be fine. Go home.
Yeah, it's definitely a mentality. I have that same issue, but for me, it's even worse because it's usually like, I mean, Atcha knows where I work. Like, you could pick me up and like move me like 20 feet and not be in a hospital. And I'm just sitting there like, I had one time where they're just like, just Joey, go to the ER, and I started crawling over there, and people stopped me in the middle of in the hallway. They're like, "You all right?" Oh yeah, I'll be fine. I got it. Skinny pit.
Just get you a breather. I'm okay.
Exactly. So I'll get there. Don't worry.
It's like, once again, it's that whole like expectation of us internalizing like physical and emotional pain, right? Never trying to be a bother to anybody else, always trying to make sure that anything that we've said that we're going to do, going to fulfill any obligations that we have, whether it's work or personal, at the extent of our own health, apparently. So,
Yeah. That intense sense of duty like just keeps manifesting, I think, like across all these stories.
Yeah, and the thing is, at the time, I didn't even realize it. I don't have something quite as intense as my ribs fucking popping out of the socket.
Just your head
But,
slamming
you
into
know,
the sidewalk.
Well, I had a helmet on, so I was fine. Just a mild concussion. But
Oh, but
it's just a little
mildly.
concussion. It's a little side of CTE. It's fine.
yeah, so I actually had like a fracture on my left arm, right? And I went to work, and they saw me at work. They let me work for the whole day, and then the manager came in and it's like, "Hey, hold up, what you doing?" And I didn't even I didn't understand what the issue was. I just had a broken arm, but I still had one good arm to work with, you know. And that was literally my argument with them. And they insisted I go home until they called up my mother at the time. And it's like when they forced me to go home and take the week off, or however long it took me to like recover my arm, I was mad. Like I didn't realize like what the problem was. I just said let me work. Like I got money to make. I have to do something than stay idle.
got to provide for family.
Yeah. That was like huge mark of like endurance and like responsibility that I was feeling for no reason, and I didn't understand at the time. I was just more annoyed that they didn't let me work.
Yeah, because it's almost like it's like the whole idle hands thing, right? Like
Yes.
Yes,
We're so
yes,
used
yes.
to being so busy all the time that the moment that we're not, like, I've been sick for the last week. I'm going insane because I just want to work.
I know that feeling.
I
know
know
that
that
feeling too
feeling.
well.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Luckily, my boss is very understanding, and he's like, "You're gonna get a quarter of what you would normally get done if you come in. Just focus on recovering. Come in when you feel better, and we'll start from there." And which is also
Good
a really
boss.
weird thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Like that, not a weird thing in a bad way, but like it's a nice, refreshing thing to see in work culture now, because like that wasn't a thing like 10 years ago, right?
Mhm.
But like it's maddening not to do something, right? Like because you feel like you're wasting time.
Bro, I had COVID like 2 months ago, and I was like still trying to go to like still work from home and like take meetings, and they're like just stop and rest. I'm like fine.
Oh
I
my
literally-
god.
Mhm.
Same
I-
thing with me. I kept on trying to come in. I'm like, did you test Yui? I'm like, I did. Is it negative? No.
I literally broke my hand, and the day after I had my surgery, I tried to come into work,
No.
and they sent me home. Like full cast on, and they're like, "Well, we can't have you on narcotics. Like, you know, you're dealing with sensitive material." And I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm not taking the pain pills." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't take pain pills, so so we're good, you know."
Oh, I know that one too. Every time dentist like, you need anything? I'm like, nah. I'm good.
Unfortunate for me, I don't know how that is, because when I don't normally get sick, so when I do get sick, oh, it kicks my ass. I am physically unable to do anything. I can't endure it and go past it when I get sick. I have to stay down, stay down. So I don't personally understand it, but like I get it.
Yeah, I mean, experiences are not universal when it comes down to it, but there's definitely some common tropes here, I'd say, with like the workaholism and
Mm.
such. I did want to take some questions from chat. Here's a question from Ephraim, by the way. Ephraim says, quotation marks, "You have to go to school because we never got a chance to. How do you feel about guilt tripping we endured as first generations?"
Oh God.
Hmm.
You
Mike's
mean
got
the
some
intense
thoughts.
gaslighting since you were like 3 years old?
Yeah.
There's so much to
Yeah.
say. There's so much to say.
There's
Oh my
there's the
God.
famous doctor, a dentist, a lawyer.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh my
pianist.
It's
A violin, like
it's
a-
like
pick your poison. Like,
Mine's still holding out hope that I become a doctor at some point, even if it's like a PhD, but that's not happening.
It's
like
always the,
I can
There's
kind of
a-
understand it. This is kind of like a toxic positivity sort of deal, right? It's not like the whole American boomers, like, why can't y'all just get a job and buy a house within the next week or so, right?
Mhm.
Like, for them, it's coming from a place of like lack of wanting or lack of resources. You know, back when Asian culture or Asian countries were developing, they didn't have much compared to like the rich resources of America, right? You know, they had to deal with a lot and survive in that sense. And from my understanding, you know, obviously I just said this was toxic positivity, but I can understand where my own parents come from in that point, even if they were being very not good about it, was to push me to a higher standard and earn a very high paying job so I can take care of myself and them in the future.
And also
You
just
know,
recognize the opportunities that are available to you in this country.
Mhm.
And like with the starting, they're putting you like on first base, to give a baseball analogy, like to get you like where you need to go.
But it's like there's a difference between that mentality and then there's a difference between them guilt tripping you about that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, I feel like that's a universal thing where it doesn't just happen to one culture, one entity of people, or one ethnic group of people, but it's like, how do we feel about that? Personally, I never liked it. Nobody fucking likes it. I'm not gonna. I don't know anybody that's gonna say, "Oh my god, it helped me grow up
Very
so
few
much as a
people
young
are
man."
like, yeah, that was a positive influence in my life. It's like, no, I
Oh, hell yeah,
succeeded.
gaslight me every day.
I succeeded in spite of that. I do want to hear from Yui and then also Mike afterwards, if that's cool.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I finished. That's all I really want to say.
Destroy the traffic. How do you feel about this, Yui?
The funny thing with that entire deal is because, as you remember, the third title is uncle. So I use a old Asian uncle accent, like a Vietnamese accent, and I speak English with that accent. So I speak as like an old Asian man, or the older generation from our point of view, like what my uncle or like person from that like generation would speak like. So a lot of that stuff, I use it all the time when I speak as uncle, because that's just what I grew up with.
You're subverting the trope essentially by being the streamer uncle for like a lot of like other like streamers.
But like the thing is, like because I was on the receiving end, there was one thing that I wanted to bring, because always people were like, oh yeah, you should be like, oh, the daddy, you want to be the dad or the Asian dad. I wanted to stick with the uncle because I felt like as Asian parents could never really say you did a good job, I'm proud of you. They never will.
How many I love yous have you heard in your life?
Exactly.
Ooh,
So
we had to go there, Jesus.
yeah, that's why I wanted to be the uncle instead, because then I had the excuse of, well, I'm not your parents. I can tell you I'm proud of you, that you're doing great, and you're doing a great job. Keep going.
Yeah, you could just be that cool distant uncle.
Well,
Exactly.
subverting the stereotype essentially of the elders being like very success oriented and very like results minded.
Yeah, like I would still have that, but at the end of the time too, it's like instead of just constantly pushing down, because that's what I received as a child. Constant, just no matter what you did, someone did it better. Someone's always better than you.
Yes.
Or no matter how high the mountain, there's always a higher mountain.
Someone's kid is doing
Yeah.
it better. Someone's cousin's doing it better. This one's so-and-so's
Yeah.
cousin's going to this school.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then there's like the whole workaholic work culture existing in all Asian cultures, like to the point where Japan says if you fall asleep at work, that's a good thing because most likely they overworked themselves to the point that they knocked out at their desk. You know,
Yeah.
it really brings it home, like the idea of like anime, why there's so many like high schoolers being the main characters. It's like that's probably when they have the most free time in youth to like do shit.
That's why
'Cause once you
Spider-Man
start-
is like the most popular like Japanese like Marvel character because like he's the shonen protagonist of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's
I don't
true.
even want to get on Spider-Man. Dude's been going through a depression arc lately.
That reminds me of that one zombie anime I didn't really get into, but like he was
Zom
part of, like,
100.
I think he's so, yeah. Like how
Yeah, Zom. Sorry. Continue.
Oh, it's like the whole concept of like how everything was like black and white, but like once the zombie apocalypse happened, like color returned to his life because things were different now.
Yeah, it really hit home to a lot of people, especially the Asians, when we would prefer a zombie apocalypse over working another day at the desk again.
Yeah.
It definitely.
I know the dude was working at a black company, but like still, it really hit home.
Yeah.
Well, you do see that a lot in like a lot of popular media coming out of Asia now, like between Squid Game and like
Yeah.
Parasite, like sort of like the ones who are sort of like upturning everything and like getting the revenge on like the wealthy and the powerful, because that or even it's this great example from Valchrist in chat about the kaiju also, like just upturning everything, like the order of society and sort of like
Kaiju?
yeah, like Godzilla
Kaiju.
for example.
Godzilla?
yeah, like
Wait,
the-
sorry, what is God? Wait, I don't get that.
It's a new anime series called Kaiju Number 8. I believe that came out-
Oh, Kaiju number 8. You just said Kaiju, and I'm like, Godzilla? Wait, what does he have?
Oh, I thought about
He's Japanese.
Godzilla when I saw that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
I
it was,
mean, if
yeah.
you
Oh, I
if,
did.
if you if you look at fundamentally at Godzilla, it was originally a part of a satire talking about how ridiculous the bureaucracy of the Japanese government was and how long it took them to respond.
Oh
right.
yeah, I
Because of
read
how the
about
Japanese
that.
government works, like it takes so many meetings to get even the tiniest thing to happen. Imagine trying to get a military to mobilize, right?
Yeah,
Because by the
there's
time that they finally did mobilize, it was almost too late, and that was kind of the point.
there's very heavy like themes of like social criticism in Godzilla, like even going back from the very beginning, like from the nuclear like criticism of the nuclear like testing and the world that we're in, as well as like Japanese society and the inertia that existed in like dealing with things like this. Yeah, but let's
Yeah.
hear from Mike about the question.
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic because
Are you getting
Uh,
bigger? Sorry.
well, maybe I don't know, perhaps.
We're getting more and more excited. That's all.
Or yoked.
Sorry. Continue. I just noticed that.
Gotcha, stop interrupting.
Oh man, I lost my
Sorry.
train of thought now. Oh God, I'm sorry. Where were we at again?
We're talking about first generation expectations and gaslighting and
Yeah, so the perspective I kind of have is that high expectations put a lot of stress. I was the first one in my family to go to college, and like that was, man, did they celebrate that? And they were just like, oh yeah, like now you got like straight A's in high school. Now do it again in college, and I'm just like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing because I'm not in your house anymore, and I'm working for my schooling. So
He broke out of his shell.
I did break out of my shell, and yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and it got to a point where it got really contentious with expectations. Talking to my father, I didn't speak to him for about 6 months, and granted, now he's not like the Asian prototypical father, right? It's just somehow he had the same level of expectations of like you will perform at your highest capacity and you will continually work until you are dead, and I just don't no semblance of work-life balance, and it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous to have that kind of mindset where there's no room for creativity, there's no room to find harmony within what you're doing.
Absolutely. This kind of ties into the question from Ali Althemia VT in chat, which her question is, how did your family react to you guys being anime men / anime eggs on the internet?
Oh shit!
I will tell you. I will tell you they don't know.
Exactly.
So in my situation, they know, but they don't know. They don't know the specifics, but they know that I use an avatar for my YouTube thing. So the thing is, they let me go. They let me do this because I wanted to. As long as I showed the results for them, they were more than. My mother wasn't on board, but she let me because it's what I wanted to do. But she always wanted me to give it up for a more quote unquote promising career, even now, or especially now. And my father, he was surprisingly 100% on board, but he didn't voice any of his opposition because he wanted me to do what I love doing. And the second I told him that I'm backpedaling on this, he had like a mini celebration, and I couldn't like be like, bitch.
Wait, you're the
It's
one.
like you had your fun.
backed me up on this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like this is not particularly answering the question, but right now at my stage of life, they rather I just put this behind me and focus on like real life, um, protocols. And it's not because it's not the typical like I hate what you're doing. It's just like you gave it a shot, it didn't really work out. Now it's time to focus on the real world, which I don't blame that at all 100%. I've had my own misgivings and things I could have done more properly, but yeah, it's like my parents at the very least were a bit open-minded to this, but now they want me to be an IRL man rather than an anime man on the internet. So yeah, that's my answer at the very least.
See,
I think they want you to have that stability.
Yeah, stability. I do feel this in some way because like what my parents were trying to prescribe for me was like go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, like go focus or go be like an accountant or something like that. And I was determined to do something else. So I studied history, I studied political science, I went and I worked for nonprofits and the government, and then I went to grad school and I got a master's in public administration, and then I went into finance. And then there when I did that, they were like, see, if you just listened like 5 years earlier, you'd be here already. I'm like, I needed to find my own way, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. My parents know that they were very hard on me, when I was growing up. So that's the main reason why they allowed me to just do this even in my advancing age, right? Like if I was fucking 19 or 18 when VTubing started showing up, they wouldn't really care as long as I went to college, right?
Listen to him talk about his advancing age.
Hey. For my advancing age, okay? All right, y'all are pretty good where you are at, but me, I have a little more of a complicated situation. So
Fair enough.
really silence your thoughts.
You're doing the best you can.
I'm a proud thought, sir.
Look, just because I have my titties away today, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was
But
gonna
yeah,
say,
my
family
parents.
knows.
Sorry?
So I'm gonna say my family knows that I do this. I've gone to the point. I am shameless. I don't know what shame is anymore. I've explained it to my family. I showed my mom how the avatar moves and everything. She's like, "Oh, I want one of those." I'm like, "You can't afford one, Mom." When I told my
Damn,
dad, he laughed at me. Didn't say anything. He just laughed. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, fuck you."
Good or bad?
Damn.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck you, Dad. Thanks. And the rest of my family, like my brother is probably the most supportive of it. He sometimes will tell me, like, "Oh yeah, you're doing great." Thanks.
Oh
My
no,
mom
I get
never
you.
goes on.
My brother's actually my brother's the only one who knows exactly what I'm doing because in my household I couldn't hide what I was doing, to be honest. So my brother knows 100% what I'm doing and he supports me, He supports me 100%, but he also understands why I'm backpedaling at the moment. So yeah, I get that.
I think my family's okay with me doing this. Like, they don't say much about it because I have a job that's stable.
That's the other thing too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a day job.
Folks,
Exactly.
my folks know that I stream, but they don't know about VTubing. They don't know what I do, right? But I also have, a solid 9 to 5, and the way that they look at it is, as long as it's a way that I can like blow off steam and enjoy myself, and hey, if I make a little extra while I'm doing it, then cool, as long as it's not like my main focus and I continue, focusing on my career instead,
Yeah. I think what I've noticed about like a lot of Asian families per se is like they push you as hard as you want, like in the early years, but later on when you don't do what they say, like they still want you to do it, but as long as you show the results of like what is earning you money, they just be like, yeah, okay, whatever, do it.
So
I guess.
true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they just like kind of like back off after like. Yeah, I think it's because they're also getting older, so they are more open minded about that stuff. Like I remember this animated guy on YouTube. His name was Domix, right?
Domix, yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about that. It's like, he studied architecture, did all this and that. Hello, Cootie.
Hey,
And
yo.
then,
Oh God, sorry. Whoops. Whoops. Oh God.
Just the-
Oh God.
Just the subtle tilt of Yui's head towards.
You have my attention, sir.
I might not be used to toggles yet, so shit.
dude's grabbing
so
everyone's
precious.
attention back. But, oh my god, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
But regardless, my whole point was that, like, even though, like, they're especially hard on us in the beginning, our parents at least, like, they back off later on if you're doing something with your life. And it's like, they won't ever know 100% what streaming is, I feel like, unless they participate in themselves. So I feel like it's just like, to them, it's just another hobby or something you do, even if you can explain it the full 100%, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I get that with like coworkers. My coworkers have that whole deal. They're like, "Oh yeah, you should do ASMR. You just eat on stream, right?" I'm like, I mean,
Yeah. Honestly, I just told my parents it's YouTube. Like, that's the easiest way for them to understand, but not fully understand, but just like stop asking me questions.
Right.
Like, I could explain Twitch and streaming to them, but they're not gonna know what it is. So
yeah, you can get to a certain point with the explanation, but you go too far into details and it just goes over because generational gap too.
and I feel like they just honestly don't care at that point.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, like because like my generation right here is like where tech started becoming a big deal. So, like the people who are older than my generation, like tech isn't easy for them. For a lot of them,
Yeah, I mean, like, when I started my journey into IT, like, I was looked at as like a weird, like, black sheep in my family because people didn't realize, like, no, IT is a good career to be in. Like, no matter how large the company, they have infrastructure, like they have IT infrastructure that needs to be supported.
Yep.
I'll always have a job somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
100%.
And it literally took until, like, I think last year for them to finally start understanding it. I'm like, yeah, because I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Like I work in medical device cybersecurity, which is a very small niche, but it's also a really important one, right?
That's a big one.
So, like, when they started understanding that, like, my mom, like, anytime that I got like free swag from my company, she'd steal it so that, like, you could, like, proudly wear it around and be like, oh, look how important my son is. And I'm just like, you guys, like, not that long ago were like, you need to find like a real job. And I'm like, I have a real job.
But it's
And
also
then they
adorable in its
figured
own
out
fact.
that pacemakers have computers in them.
Oh yeah, and they are super vulnerable to attack too. Like, oh my god, it's insane. Like, I won't go into it because it'll derail everything. But know that I'm working hard to keep you guys safe inside hospitals.
We appreciate it.
We do appreciate
It's
that,
funny
actually.
to me how many. Yeah, it's funny to me how Asian parents will not know a thing about technology, but go to us for the first thing to know about it.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
makes me wonder how many go into IT because of that.
Yeah,
Like the best IT.
They call me the intern IT at work. So it's like, Yui, this broke. Yui. The worst is when I go on vacation. I go on vacation for like 2 weeks, and then this entire time they refuse to call IT. They won't call our IT people. And I walk in and they're like, Yui, the scanner's broken, the printer's broken, this computer over here doesn't work, and this monitor won't turn on. I'm like,
Yeah, because IT takes too long, but you're right there and you're Asian, so you must figure it out.
I mean, the thing is, it takes too long because no one ever tells us anything's wrong until it's been 6 months down the line. And it's not just that one thing that's broken. It's like 7 other things we now have to diagnose because somebody didn't want to tell us when it was originally just a tiny
Well,
problem.
because we have to submit a
most likely
ticket,
could
and
be
then IT
solved.
ignores the ticket.
Well, on a side note too, sometimes when people submit tickets, they don't know what the problem is, and it becomes this strange like explanation of like, what the hell is broken? Like,
Yeah,
what happened? What?
like you know that like gif of like Tom from Blink-182 with like a blonde mullet where he's like, what the fuck? Like that's my face 90% of the time. I look at a ticket from somebody where I'm just like, what are you trying to
This is why I call IT awesome.
okay.
So, like, I try to explain it the best I can. And I'm like, okay, I think it's this. I've already done all the typical things here. It's probably this.
To be fair, I was in a meeting today where we were told that we don't get wireless keyboards because IT doesn't want to get tickets about people not replacing the batteries.
You know
Yes.
what? That's fair.
Yes.
That's
Jesus.
fair.
Valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
Besides, wireless is more expensive anyway, so
Fair enough.
You know, not as much anymore. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
wireless keyboards, like on like an enterprise level, super affordable now. So most places don't care. It's just IT doesn't want to fucking deal with the tickets.
Yep.
Yep.
that's fair.
Yep.
You
Just
lose
like
your dongle, that bricks the entire keyboard because there's no universal dongle for it. Otherwise, every dongle would work for every keyboard, which means that no one could have the same keyboard. And
Mhm.
yeah, no.
Oh, yeah.
no.
God.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold up before we get into our Asian troubles as IT men. What's the next question about Asian
Okay,
masculinity?
to very extremely pivot us off this. So all 4 of you are East Asian men, East Asian presenting men, or have East Asian ancestry. So this is a question about COVID-19 and Asian hate. East Asians in particular are at a confluence where the culture of their homelands is at its apex of popularity, but increasingly they are also the targets of hate and suspicion in the wake of post-COVID-19 xenophobia. Do you ever struggle with the disparity of Asians being relatively popular online, but facing increasing distrust offline?
So, as being
Wait,
6'8",
explain.
oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't understand the question.
So basically, the essence of the question is like if you're VTubing or if you're on Twitter, Korean culture very popular. Chinese culture, people read like they play Genshin, they read Chinese like manhwa, manga, and so on. Japanese culture, endearing, anime, everything. People love Japan. Then you get down to like politics here in America, and you hear all the time about how China is our new enemy, how Asians like brought COVID-19 to this country. Do you sort of struggle with that disparity in that, you know, being Korean, Chinese, Japanese, East Asian is super popular online? And well, this may depend on where you live, honestly. But and like this is a great example in chat here. The TikTok hearings were agony. People wanting to ban TikTok because the Chinese government might have some power over it, for example. That's an inherent suspicion that Americans have because that's not something that would happen, one would say, if like, you know, would it happen if TikTok was German or Italian or Russian or, you know, Middle Eastern or Saudi or something, you know?
I mean, what I can say to start off with all of that is one, if you have a Huawei phone, I'm sorry, yeah, your stuff's being tracked by the Chinese government more than likely. It was found out a while ago. I called that out a while ago, but that's not the only thing, right? Like, it's interesting because I live in a very interesting part of America where I live in a fairly culturally diverse area, but then if I just go about 20 minutes east, the national headquarters of the KKK are there.
Fuck.
Oh, you
Yeah.
live there? Oh.
God damn.
So, funny story. I've had being 6'8", you think that people wouldn't say anything to me. Typically, they don't. It's the ones that are super hateful that do, and those are the funny ones because they're normally like 5'1", and they're like, "Go back to your country," and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I heard a voice, but I can't see where the voice is coming from," and that normally shuts them up.
Hmm.
But I feel a lot more for the elderly and for the older generations that we have, right? I apologize, I meant to mute there. But the what I saw a lot of, like for instance, my mother had people because she owns a store. Would talk about her eating bats and you know all this other BS that was being thrown around during that time, and now people continuously, you know, nationalize us, right? Where they they'll say anything except Korean, right? And because Chinese is really popular to hate right now. Oh,
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, blah, 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 you Chinese people, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, we're Korean, dude.
Hmm.
I've literally, like, my mom's called me, like, frustrated and in tears. And, like, I would show up to our store and then that person would back down pretty quickly. But you know, like I said, my mom's a smaller person. Like she's also, you know, very, she isn't afraid of confrontation, but like hearing that stuff all the time really got to her, right? And I told her, like, you know, you just can't let it get to you. And, you know, if something happens, you know, there's security, you can call the police. You know, you don't have to let them onto our property. But it's so polarizing to see how popular we are in the internet, where there's a larger, you know, swath of people that will pay attention to us. But on the flip side, when it comes to, you know, real life, basically, there's just a lot more room for hate, especially if you're seen as more vulnerable. So the older you are, the smaller you are, those are the people that get pointed out a lot more. And I mean, it's frustrating for me because I wish somebody would, but
Right.
I do my best to speak out if I ever see it. But it's definitely really challenging to kind of like balance those two sides.
I think that was what was very deeply frustrating about the pandemic, was that like every Asian dude I know was like, I wish someone would try something in front of me instead of like picking on this old person or like this woman or these kids, because that's what was happening. It was like targeting like the most vulnerable people out there because it was cowardly. It was cowardly, but it was like sort of preying on that like basic instinct that like you can do whatever you want to Asians, and like it's different because like they're not like the same as other people.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they're non-confrontational, right? They're very docile people, and I'm like, that's an interesting way to look at us. But, okay,
Yeah.
we're not, but okay.
I do feel like we do need to hear from Mike though.
Okay, good segue. I was just about to pipe up.
Perfect.
So what's interesting is that I actually got to experience COVID in the United States, and then also travel to Korea for part of it for work. And here in the States, I'm not as big as Cutie, but I am somewhat taller than most Asian people, and I'm a little bit broader. And I still got looks. I got nasty looks. Anytime I had to go out to go take care of things, people would stare and just like really, really try to trigger some sort of reaction out of me.
Mhm.
While I was walking around wearing a mask, and I just give him this look of like, what do you want, man? Like, I've got the vaccine. I did what I was supposed to do to like prevent the spread of it. I don't know what more you want from me. You can't just be mad at me. That's very irrational type of thinking. But then, going to Korea while it was happening, it was very interesting because no one really cared, right? It's just like everybody was just going about doing their own thing, following the mask mandates, keeping the spacing, doing whatever was asked of them. No one was like defiant, no one was like judging, and it was kind of nice because it's like, oh, like no one's gonna look at me and think like, oh, he's half white, he's gonna bring the COVID over here. They were just like, just another Asian person just doing their thing. And it was very frustrating because it's like, in America we're supposed to be like a melting pot of ideas and values and stuff like that, and then just to be like marginalized and be like, it's your fault, you did this. And it's like, brother, I was nowhere near where it originated, and I have no idea what you're talking about. And it sounds like you need to find some rationalization of your own frustrations, and you're just placing upon somebody else because it's much easier for you to do that than to just accept the way things are and just move on with your life.
People were incredibly quick to vent their frustrations on Asian people at that time. Like, even if it was just a comment, not even like physical violence, it was like, this is your fault, essentially, that we got to wear these masks, that the world shut down, that I can't go to the gym, I can't, like, go to the club or something like that. Like, it became a socially acceptable like thing to like attack like Asian people over.
Yeah,
I think that's a perfect example of one of the largest, in my opinion, one of the largest differences in Eastern and Western culture, right? Western culture is more nowadays revolves around self. It's a lot more selfish. It's more about the individual, right? And in Eastern culture still today, it's about the community as a whole. It actually reflects a lot inside of national trademarks and the way that intellectual property is dealt with in a lot of these areas, where it's not belonging to an individual, but more towards the country. But if you look at the way that a lot of Asian countries mobilized when it came to the response for COVID, I don't want to speak incorrectly here, but there was a very small Southeast Asian country that actually developed an app where it was basically a COVID tracker. And what it would do is that if you tested positive, you would then flag yourself on the app. And then anyone else that had the app, if they were flagged near you, then they would be then told like, hey, you should probably go get checked, right? And it made it so much easier to track the spread inside that country. And it was at the sacrifice of your personal, comfort, because it was like, oh, I got to go tell now everyone knows that I have COVID. But it was for the greater good of, the community as a whole. But then in the States, heaven forbid you ask someone to wear a mask, because I apparently they were too hard to breathe in. I never had a problem with them.
To contact tracing, or like not go to somewhere like the gym or like a club or something.
The whole thing was that, like, if everybody just listened and everyone just, it would have been a lot faster. But then there were so many people protesting, and then those protests became super events that spread it more and more and more, and it just got worse until they had to start enforcing things, right?
Living with the virus. It's the term we used back then, yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to deal with that stuff a lot.
Right, because you work in the medical setting, Yui.
Yeah,
I actually work in a hospital in the pharmacy, so it's why I play with the idea, and I'm the Yuchi of the F and item shop, proprietor, items, potions, pharmacy. There's a link between the whole deal,
Mm-hmm.
but there's lots of fun. Lots of fun. Go outside, even with I'm wearing lab coat and everything. You can see that I am going from work or I'm on break from work, and people give you the dirtiest stares. Even when trying to get gas, sometimes you can just see when people see me come out, like, oh no, there's an Asian dude, and he's not only that, but he's also like he's in hospital garb, so he's like, oh, he has to be a carrier, he has stuff, and they just avoid you like the fucking plague.
Yeah, they were so like happy to praise frontline workers unless you were Asian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
And if
some
you just
people
had an
did
itchy
have
scrot,
it.
heaven forbid, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I was like, if even like with your mask, like they wanted to make sure I had a mask and everything. To them, no mask for them. That's breathing problems, blah blah blah, and we couldn't trying to explain it to people logically. Like, look, there's a reason why. It's not just for you; it's for everybody. It's like as long as everyone does this is the best way for us to get past this. They don't care. They don't care.
I think this dovetails nicely into another question I had here about the racial uniform and the perpetual foreigner. So these are two Asian American concepts that apply to many immigrant groups, but like also do apply to a lot of Asians. So the question is, Asian American scholar Ronald Takaki is noted for coining the term racial uniform. The concept that Americans that do not look like typically Caucasian people fall into the trope of the perpetual foreigner, and are also seen as a collective rather than individuals. Do you often feel like you're seen more as a quote unquote Asian or quote unquote foreign than as an American?
Let me pop up on this one first. I feel like nowadays it's better than it was than back in the day. Because I remember when I was at my youngest, because I am, unlike remember I said I'm shameless. I'm 40 years old. I'm an old man. I've been around. Back in the day, if you were Asian, instantly, oh, they're Chinese. Chinese, there was the whole Ching Chong bullshit and all that fun stuff. It's gotten better on that end. Like, people are more accustomed to there's more than just Chinese. I feel like people even like the idea of like chopsticks. People know what chopsticks are at least. I had to teach my entire class how to use chopsticks because nobody knew how to use chopsticks. And it was me and another Asian girl. Both of us, we could use chopsticks. No one else knew how, and it became a whole class of how to use chopsticks and eat instant noodles. But I do feel like there is some advancement. It's not ideal, but it's moving.
Definitely felt it more like after 9/11, because that is the time when, and like it's the same, like it's hitting East Asians now with like the COVID pandemic, and like things have obviously gotten better as things have opened up, but at the time it felt like it was going to be forever. Like nobody in this country would ever look at you as an American because of the skin that you have, like, and the way you present yourself. And like I would dress like more American. I'd wear like baseball t-shirts to school every day. Like that's like, yeah, I love baseball, I'm a very American, like please don't like assume that I'm like foreign or something like that. And it's just like that internalized sort of fear that like people are not going to accept you because you just have this racial uniform that makes you inherently foreign.
Yeah, like you're Asian. You're not American. Not Asian, not even an Asian American. You're just Asian.
Right. Right. Like that's sort of what's contained in like that sort of like philosophy. It's like Asian American kind of doesn't exist. it's like either you've assimilated or you haven't, and like
Uh-huh.
people's like first generation people especially kind of inhibit that weird space where you're kind of in the middle, and it's like, are your children going to, if you have them, of course, like identify as Asian American? Will their children identify as Asian American? Like it is sort of that weird thing because Asians have been in this country for a long time, but it's only recently that we're in this country in large numbers.
Yeah. I think something interesting that you hit on was the clothing that you wore to kind of assimilate into your surroundings and your environment. Um, Growing up in the South, I didn't wear like cowboy boots and like jeans and stuff like that. I wore skater clothes. I love skater
Mm.
culture.
Mhm,
I really liked it because I was in my defiance age, you know, like not trying to be part of the system, be part of the man. So I wore skater grunge clothes. And yeah, I'd never heard this term of like racial uniform until we had the questions you had sent out for this show.
Mm.
I think you're right. I think you're all right. Is that it is grown better as Asian culture acceptance has been increased, but there's, you know, the negatives that come with it as well. Is like, okay, so the stereotypes aren't anymore like small PP, good at math, you're doctor, you're amazing musician, you can draw really well, and you know, like
Sort of what
you're like you don't, and then you also like you don't work out, you have very feminine features. And I think, you know, now it's more accepted, but I you really can't escape it because the Asian thing instead of being Asian American. Unfortunately, I think it's still going to be there. It's going to take some more time. Unfortunately, like COVID kind of set us back a little bit.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah,
True.
it kind of hit the reset button. Um, I personally kind of joke about it now that I'm older, and it doesn't bother me anymore because I just identify as an American, and that my Asian culture is part of me, but it doesn't identify who I am as a person for the rest of my time and everything I do. There are other cultures that I like and experience, and I like and enjoy those things. I think your actions kind of speak louder than your words, and being Asian does not necessarily define everything that I am.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to bring it to that point, yeah, I have no idea where we are.
I was about to say, I'm like, do my bodyguards have anything to say?
Yeah, I was gonna hand it off to Cootie actually, see if he had to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had the opposite where, like, when I was younger, I very much tried to conform as much as possible because it was a lot of, like, you know, stinky food, you know, weird looking, you know. I mean, I was like the only like Korean kid in my class for a long time, right? And as I got older, I just kind of like severely whiplashed back into embracing my Korean side a lot more, because it has become a lot more accepted now versus before, right? Just because the culture itself is becoming more popular. But even when I was trying to conform, I feel like I'd always been looked at as an Asian. Even if I was misdiagnosed as a Samoan half the time. But it's like, people can definitely tell, like, I'm not from here, which I'm not. I'm from South Korea. I was born and raised there. But then they hear my voice or they hear my English and then they're very confused, right? But I don't think that being seen as being an Asian is as negative as it was before, but in other ways there are different types of negatives now, right? Kind of like what Mike has talked about, where it was Mike, right? I'm trying to make sure that there are two
Yeah.
new voices here. Okay. Sorry, I'm still trying to get over this whole like being sick thing.
You're good.
But just trying to make sure that like I know that if I do have kids, it'll be important for me to teach them about their heritage, but I would leave it up to them to see how they would want to continue presenting themselves, right? I just think that the negatives that were there aren't being as stressed like they used to be, where, like Mike said, it's no longer small PP good at math, does martial arts, right? Now it's, COVID, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel like there's some progression, but at the same time, like I do feel like COVID set us back like 30 years.
I do fear also like this sort of new Cold War with China will probably make things worse before they get better. Because so long as people continue to engender this mistrust of the nation of China, like everyone wearing this quote unquote racial uniform is suspect.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like things got definitely a lot better than it was before because originally COVID was called the Chinese flu. So it's like, okay, well then, we know exactly who to blame, I guess. But
But this has
yeah,
like
and
happened
then
before. Like in World War II, like Chinese people had to wear pins like I'm Chinese, not Japanese. Please don't attack me. And it's like, well, that's not better.
yeah, and then there was the infamous, Japanese camps at in America during the wartime.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's how do I say?
Internment.
I feel like the main issue when it comes to like Asian issues is the lack of coverage for it, right? Like I'm not saying other ethnic groups don't deserve their spotlights, don't deserve like their chances, but whenever it comes to like Asian issues, it's more or less forgotten within the next hour. Like when the peak of COVID, an old elderly woman got hit on the head, nearly died from a COVID racist, right? They covered it on the news very briefly and then kind of moved on. When I brought it up to a coworker, they said, "All right, well, you guys don't really have that many issues right now. Like we should be focusing on other issues more." And that really didn't sit well with me. And that's when I also
Yeah.
realized like how undervalued the issue of Asians are in general, especially during COVID peak time.
Yeah, I mean, okay, Atra, I'm sorry. I'm gonna say it. I'll get canceled. You ready?
Okay.
Oh shit.
The Stop Asian Hate lasted like half a week. Maybe half a week. The only people talking about it after that were Asians.
Mm.
I can vouch for that at my workplace. I could definitely vouch for that.
Like it's infuriating to me that people have this tribal, mentality when it comes to who's suffering more.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Everyone is everyone's just a bunch of crabs in a pot. If we all lifted each other up and worked together, we could raise awareness, we could support each other, and we could all thrive. But instead, we keep pulling each other down, saying, "No, I'm suffering more right now." Oh, but you see, we're suffering over here too, and just pulling each other down. And that's been one of the most infuriating things to me during this entire time, is that instead of bringing awareness together, everyone's just fought over who's suffering more.
People often ask Asians to subsume their concerns in the name of other groups that are quote unquote less privileged, I've noticed. especially when it comes to like schools or like, you know,
Minor
opportunities. Yeah.
There's
Because-
the model minority mentality where they
Exactly.
think that
Yep.
we live better, we live like, you know, this and that. And you know, there's always some truth to the story, but it's always never 100% of the real deal, you know.
Yeah.
Like we go through our own shit, but the thing is when we do, it's not focused on, it's not covered, you know.
No,
Yeah.
and and if it is, it's very easily forgotten within a very short amount of time.
People love to
Yeah,
say
it's-
that like
Mhm.
Indians and Chinese people have like the highest household income in the U.S. Yeah, it's because like there's 5 working adults under that roof.
Yeah, it's you realize how many generations are under that household to have
Right.
that income be so high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Oh my
you
God.
know what's funny, Atra? Actually, it's just quite sad. But do you know how many people remembered it was AAPI this month?
We've kind of been spitting in the wind, I think.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
many people don't even realize that this month is Asian American and, you know, Pacific Islander month, which I think further proves what we've been talking about, how like, you know, there are other issues, but why does that have to be like the point?
It's true. My job forgot about it entirely.
Yeah, well, it's like Cootie said, you know, it's not a contest of like who's suffering more. It's we're like we are also having our own issues, so we would like our support, like how we support everyone else. But when we get our own problems, that's it. We have to deal with our own problems.
I think it
Yeah.
really
So-
does come down to individual Asian people to recognize that this is one of the times to speak about solidarity and like sort of make it what it is, because like no one else is going to make it for you. Like
Hmm.
it really is. Well, if you want to talk about Asian issues, you better host it yourself, because no one else is going to give you that venue or forum or opportunity to speak, especially when it comes to a nebulous concept like Asian American. Because let's face it, Asian American is a weird concept. Like, in what world does like Indian Americans, Japanese Americans, and like, you know, Lebanese Americans all have the same sort of commonality on a
Mhm.
government forum, and that's about it.
yeah.
Yeah, we're all just kind of like grouped into one picture.
Yeah, and
Just
look,
by
you know,
having one of
I'm
the
gonna be
most
honest,
ethnically
like-
diverse. Mhm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cootie.
So for example, like I'm mixed, right? I'm not 100% Korean. I'm mostly Korean. But when we talk about the advantages that Asians get, right? Like people love talking about like the high amount of Asians that get into college, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to put down that I was mixed to get accepted. Because there are, as much as people don't want to talk about it, there are quotas, right?
Mhm.
And when you have groups that really prioritize education that much, where yes, there is, you know, a higher chance to going to college, but normally at a mental health cost, right? And that's something that we've talked about, you know, earlier here. A lot of us can't even get in because the universities look at their ratios and they go,
Yeah. It's
we don't really have
TMA.
room for another one.
Too many Asians. TMA.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually ironically harder to get into a college if you're Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is not
it's-
at all to like criticize like any sort of seats that are available to Black and Latino people. It is the fact that the majority of seats are still taken by Caucasian students. And like that is not a consideration, especially when it comes to legacy admissions as well as like
Mhm.
the so-called majority. Because like that is the biggest wedge issue, I think, for like middle class and like upperly mobile like Asian Americans now. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, are you gonna join like the quote unquote anti-diversity side and like eliminate any opportunities for Black and Latino people? Or are you going to preserve the flawed system as it is because it provides opportunities to all minorities? And it's interesting to see that like conflict play out like across like class and ethnic lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I actually got rejected from college because I said I'm Korean,
Yeah.
and that's when I realized, like, wow, quotas matter a lot more than anything else I brought into the table, huh?
I don't know how it got missed, but I actually got declined by a college when I said that I was Korean. And I sent a second application saying that I was mixed, and I got accepted.
That's wild.
And I was like, I don't know how you didn't notice that I sent an application twice, but okay, you know what? I'll take it. And,
For
I mean,
real.
They probably-
apparently the Supreme Court has struck that down, but like,
I
it's
kind of, yeah, I don't doubt.
it's taking a
that.
flawed system and then replacing it with nothing, and I just worry
Yeah.
that, like, okay, you've used us as your wedge issue. Like the plaintiffs in that case, I think, were they all Asian? Probably. I think some of the plaintiffs were Asian, but like, when it comes down to it, all right, so you've used us to dismantle affirmative action. Now what? Are you going to be looking at class, like working class, like getting working class students into college? Or are you just going to leave things as they are and say, well, now we don't have an obligation to offer that opportunity to, anybody, whether it's Southeast
Yeah.
Asians, Pacific Islanders, Black people, or Latino people?
Mm-hmm. Like, I know we meme a lot, right? And I love my white friends, but it's like, when it comes to like those kind of college specific, or in this particular instance of conversation, right? Like, white privilege is really more apparent there than anywhere else, or one of the more apparent reasons than a lot of other places.
Yeah, well, no one ever questions why you're in that university. Like, it's just assumed, like, yes, you've earned your spot here.
Yeah,
Well, and
and
then
for the most part,
you can also
they
talk-
they probably did, but
But then you could also bring up financial aid. Financial aid is extremely tough as an Asian to get because the large pool of applicants versus the very small amount of resources that are really there for them,
Great point.
right? So it's once again one of those things where like people see a lot of Asians as model minorities, and they're like, oh, they don't need help, they're fine, they're smart, they'll
Oh.
figure it out, they're industrious people, right?
oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
The only reason why
They don't
I
need social
got
services.
more,
Yeah.
yeah, the only reason why I got more financial aid than like my fellow Asian peers is because at the time my parents were divorced and I was with my mother. She's a single mother, raising me, who was still under their 25 years requirement, right, for independence. So yeah, that was like the only reason why I got more than my Asian peers who actually could barely afford one class with their financial aid. Me, I could buy a whole ass computer with it. I was like, damn, this is like an fortunate situation and my unfortunate situation.
Mm.
Mm.
And Val brings up a great point, right? Where it does kind of feel like it's just pitting minorities against other minorities to fight over basically
Oh,
the scraps of the slots that are left.
Oh, it's
right?
not just quota. That's literally what the model minority was made for. Like,
Mhm.
because we are being
wedge.
put in, yeah, we as Asians are being put up as the like apex of the best of the worst is essentially what they're saying, right? That's what model
Yeah.
minority is.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
because we're quote unquote seen as the best, other groups want to bring us down because we're the ones getting praised, quote unquote, like being given the good word, when in reality it's just like all it's doing is making them fight us while we have to defend ourselves. But the people who put us in the model minority position are just kind of laughing, sipping their wine, enjoying their three like 1,000-year-old wine in their backyard.
Wine that predates the birth of Jesus.
That's the good stuff right there. Like you can see the earthen ring around like the seals. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it kind of brings me back to like what Kuti said earlier. We're being made to fight each other instead of like helping each other. And I think that's like the biggest issue with just everything.
And people need to
Power,
understand,
people.
like, the way that immigration to this country has happened. At various points, Japanese people, Chinese people, and Filipino people were explicitly banned by law from immigrating to this country after various incidents. The Chinese Exclusion Act, the Watsonville riots for Filipinos, the war with Japan, like it wasn't until 1946, the Hart-Celler Act, that they allowed a quota of 100 Indians and 100 Filipinos to immigrate per year. And that quota was in place until the 60s. And then they started bringing in the most educated Asians they could find. Doctors, lawyers, and whatever. And they came over here, couldn't get jobs, started businesses. They self-selected like Asians who were already on the higher side of income, entrepreneurial, more predisposed to like working the capitalistic system. So they came here, they did well, and it validated these attitudes that Asians were somehow better at like surviving America and like getting up there, without even considering like there are other Asians who came as refugees, Asians who like, you know, may have like come as like, you know, the result of like displacement or war, or like, you know, as migrant labor, and like fell behind. And like that legacy continues to haunt Asian Americans to this day, because like, you know, they self-selected the best and the brightest essentially to come here, but like that doesn't mean that every Asian person in this country doesn't need help anymore.
And to be honest, like the best of the brightest are probably like fucking like 92 right now, and
Oh,
we're
yeah,
left
no.
to like pick up the scraps here, fighting
They're all
for that
closing the dry
ideology.
cleaners and the grocery stores now. They're retiring.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the ideology that was left to us, picking up the scraps and leaving us to defend ourselves, but we can't ask for help because we're not only forced to think for ourselves, but at the same time, like there's no help offered to us. So,
I mean, that kind of brings, and if you don't want to go into this topic yet, like definitely like just bonk me on the head here, Atra.
You got it.
But this kind of segues really well, in my opinion, to the topic of something that in my heart was very symbolic of how Koreans band together into something being a lot more toxic, and that's the whole rooftop Asians.
We talk about the rooftop Koreans. Let's go.
Koreans.
Let's talk about the rooftop Koreans.
So, rooftop Koreans to me has a special place in my heart. And it's because for people that don't know, Korea does have mandatory service, which is why you'll see like a lot of actors and K-pop stars, they'll disappear for a few years randomly, and it's because they go do their
military service.
Oh yes, sorry.
Yeah.
They have mandatory military service, and what happened is that as a lot of these Korean men had immigrated into the U.S., a lot of them, like Atra mentioned, you know, a lot of them created businesses, and in LA, for example, Koreatown was a very tight-knit community, right? Because, you know, you have to think about, and this happens in a lot of countries. For example, in Korea, there is basically an America town, same as in Japan, where a lot of expatriates will congregate, so that way they kind of have a feeling of home, right? So Koreatown was predominantly made of Korean people, and they'd have Korean businesses there. And during the riots, after the sentencing of the officers involved with Rodney King, there were gigantic riots in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And as these riots were tearing through the city, they were going towards Koreatown. And instead of abandoning their shops and knowing that they basically lose everything, these men got together, who most, if not all of them, had military training already, grabbed their guns and defended their property and their legacy that was there for their children, right? It was their way of building a better life for their children. And they defended their property because I want to say that it was a disproportionate amount of damage was dealt to Asian
Yeah, it was
shops.
Not only that, it was that the LAPD directed them towards Koreatown. they protected parts of the city that were not Koreatown, such as City Hall and like, the administrative center of like the town, the wealthy parts of town.
Yeah. So people descended down, and you had these images of these guys, protecting their livelihood. And for me, it's like, no, like that's what I feel like you should do, right? But then there was this kind of perversion that kind of came out during COVID, where it was kind of used as a way to and I didn't really watch it as much, because once I started seeing the trend, I started not looking at it, because I was like, oh, the meme is back. I wonder what this is. Oh, okay.
A toxic rebirth
Okay.
of like the idea
Yeah.
of grabbing your
Yeah,
guns
yeah.
and like pointing them at like people who like are hurting you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like I said, the original mindset of it being, that you're there to protect your own, and to protect your family, to protect your legacy. Like, these are all admirable things, in my opinion. And to have it, flipped like that, there was a reason why I didn't take part in in it, even though I originally loved the original meme and the idea behind it.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
at the core of it, it's very
Sorry, go ahead.
it's sad, because like the amount of desperation that it took, and like again, this is America pitting minorities against each other, like to have Korean people having to pick up arms to defend themselves, like in an American city, should be something that's unheard of, something that should be considered extremely tragic. Oh, there goes Cootie again. No. And it's like, why would you want to have that sort of scenario play out again because of COVID, in which like you are grabbing guns and like instead of like looking for like solutions, you're like looking to fight somebody, looking to kill somebody over this. Like, when it came to Asian hate and people like attacking people in the street, these are people with nothing to lose. These are people with mental health issues. These were people who, and it's unfortunate, like there was no easy solution, but the solution was not grabbing guns and shooting them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and like I understood the anger for like young Asian men to be like, I want to be a rooftop Korean. I want to pick up arms and fight these people. But at the end of the day, it was a tragedy, and it just got co-opted and perverted in like these online spaces, I think.
Yeah, it's that concept of the means justify the cause.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And at a certain point, I feel like the people who joined the Rooftop Koreans didn't really know what it was about. They just saw their fellow people in arms, heard like the basic stories, like to protect themselves, and then before you know it, it became a whole ass thing where it's just minority versus minority, which shouldn't be at all any point of time the priority,
To explain, Ali, a rooftop Korean. So that is during the LA riots in the early 90s, when there was widespread unrest in Los Angeles. The LAPD failed in their duty to both contain the riots and protect like Koreatown. In fact, sending the rioters there instead of like towards other strategic targets, leading to Korean men who had military training in the South Korean military to pick up arms and get into gun battles with like rioters, and like some rioters died, some Koreans died. It was just in all just a horrible, tragic thing that happened, that very heavily damaged race relations in Los Angeles to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Vanguard.
Oh,
Sorry, I had a train of thought and I read Cootie's Vanguard. That took me by surprise because my brain went into like Valorant, and I'm like, wait, what?
Wait, did Valorant crash your PC, Cootie?
I'm just staring at what Val saying right now. It's every time he's miking swords. dying over here.
Yeah, Mike is bulking on Cookie's energy.
Exactly.
Feeling
Absorbing his
gains.
Opar essence.
No fires. It's all no.
Oh my god.
But yeah, it's, it was gonna be weird for people who know me for me to say this, but violence shouldn't be the option that we go for. It really shouldn't.
Oh my god, who are you?
Right? Yeah. Like, I always say, teamwork makes the dream work. That's a phrase I heard, and I firmly believe it. Like, if everybody is of the same mind and heart and soul, we can do anything. Type of mentality.
Mhm.
Why are we fighting against each other? If we work together, there's so much we can do.
Yeah, it's ironic, like how Asians, especially Asian men, are like sort of yeah, Asian men.
Asian man.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. I need to make sure that I turn that.
You're good.
Honestly,
Oh my god.
it's been perfect each time, so it's great.
Great timing each time.
Oh my god.
But I was just gonna say, like, it's ironic how Asian men who grew up like learning about community, working together, whatnot, right? Like in America, we're taught solidarity, where we can't, we can't work with other groups because that's what America's teaching us. So I always felt that like a little contrast between either working with others or working with myself. But
It's interesting because I think the criticism that comes from Americans against Asians is that we Asians are quote unquote tribal. Like, we have communities that we stick together and we sort of like stick to each other. And we're
Mhm.
criticized if we don't break out of that and like mingle with like the greater society and a whole and become individuals. And it's like, it's this, again, this fetishization of like being an individual and like being your own person, you know?
And I mean, the funniest thing is that like Kui and I we meme about it's like we Koreans, we stick together like a flock of birds. Like we see a Korean, we just like walk over there. It's like, what's up, bro? They could be in the most like dangerous place, but we see it. We just trust them 100%.
But that's like a survival thing for like people in this country. It's like, you
Yeah.
came here, you don't know anybody, you go to Korean church and you meet people from your community. Like, you come here, like, you're a Patel and you own a hotel, you find other Patels and you hang out with them because, like, it doesn't matter if you have to drive like 100 miles to see them. Like, that's someone who knows you. Like, that's someone from your
Mhm.
village. That's your community.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I remember in this VTuber scene specifically, like, I say like, oh, I said one time on a collab, like, hey, that person's Korean or that person has a Korean influence. I forgot if it was a game or something else, but then they said to me, it's like, yo, like, why are you so crazy about whenever you see like a Korean on screen? And I don't know. I was just like, why is that a question? Like,
like, why wouldn't I be excited to see another Korean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
are we
it's
supposed
like-
to hate each other like dogs? Like,
Apparently.
And he said like I forgot what it was. I'm paraphrasing, but he said like if I see another guy of my ethnic group, I'm just like, hey, what's up? I'm just like, I mean, sure, okay, I guess, but I saw another Korean. I'm happy about it. There's more Asian representation.
it's not even
Like-
Asian people. Like, other Italians are like that too. It's like, it's not even an Asian thing.
Hey,
Hey.
That is true. Like, for me, we're not, as Vietnamese, I'm not used to it. Seeing Vietnamese around, even nowadays, like, one thing I've noticed is like in animation for anime, like there are Vietnamese names in there sometimes. And I'm just like, yo, my peeps.
That's another entire issue with them outsourcing everything to Vietnam, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was the weirdest thing when I was in Japan for the first time. We were at a hostel, I walked outside and I was extremely confused. There was a sign. It said in Japanese, smoking. Smoke, stay over there. Smoke in that general area. Don't go far. I'm like, okay. Then it said in English. It said it wrong, but it got the point across.
Mm-hmm.
Then it said in Vietnamese, and I was extremely confused. I was like, why is it in Vietnamese? And I found out there was a school that people from Vietnam were coming over, and they were actually like studying over there. So that one spot was because of that. We have a lot of smokers. Smoking is a very common thing.
It's because the government like makes it very cheap. It's like a
Yeah.
government-owned entity in Vietnam, I believe.
Yeah, when you go out for a coffee in Vietnam, you can be like, yeah, give me a coffee and give me like 2 cigarettes, and they'll be cheap, and they'll just give you. They won't even tell you the whole pack. Just however many cigarettes you need for your coffee.
Oh, poor Cootie.
Cooty's going through it right now.
Poor Cootie.
Like, we're specifically trying not to move on to the next topic so that he can be with us.
Well, on the topic of riots, actually, like there is one thing I want to say about the rooftop Korean, because like the current like mood is like this is like overwhelmingly a bad thing to bring back. It still is one of the first times in this country's history, a long history of rioting against Asian communities, in which self-defense was successfully sort of like gathered and resisted against like the people coming into the community. Because from Chinese minor towns to like the Watsonville riots, where in which like Filipino men were like beaten and harassed for dating white women in like the 30s, to like riots against Japanese communities, like there's a long history. And this is not even just for Asians. Like this is about Tulsa for African Americans as well. This is about Operation Wetback against Mexican people in the 60s. Like this is very much a history of like preying on people who are defenseless. So while I find the reemergence of the meme to be quite a problem, I do want to acknowledge too, like that means something to people growing up in this country. This idea that you can also push back and like defend yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Like, I think you put it really perfectly. Like, I don't really have too much to add on that mindset. It's like we are more than willing to protect ourselves, but it's just nice if we also receive support for doing so.
Yeah,
Instead of being criticized for being like the top, quote unquote, top of the best of the worst.
It's something that should stay in the past, if I'm being honest. And like so this doesn't dox me, but like this is an IRL thing that happened for me. It's like in the peak of like the COVID sort of wave of hate, there was a young woman named Michelle Go in New York City who was pushed in front of a subway train by a mentally ill individual. Do we know if it was because she was Asian or not? No idea, because this person was not well. But there was a vigil in, of all places, Times Square, New York City, like the biggest stage like in the country. And it was 20 degrees. It was freezing. I remember my fingers being numb, and I was standing there. And then I listened to politicians talk for an hour about mental health and not to like, blame anyone for what happened. And her family finally got to speak like 75 minutes in. And I just remember that thinking like, this is bullshit. Like, this is like, you are not hearing her friends, her family. You are not individualizing this person and her life and experiences. This to you is a teachable moment to like lecture us on race relations, to like lecture us on like, oh, like, to make her a martyr and like say, oh, stop API hate. But maybe we'll increase mental health funding. It's like, well, fuck all of you. Like, you won't even let her family speak at her own vigil.
So, kind of talking about that same. Oh God.
Welcome
New
back,
York.
Cootie.
Thank you. I'm just invisible now.
It's a
So
metaphor
you'll-
for the Asian American experience.
Aw.
I'm taking my stance today. So there was another really big incident in New York regarding an Asian American police officer. Do you remember this, Atra?
Depends on which one.
So it ended with them sentencing this Asian American police officer to jail.
Yes, okay. I
Jail
know which
time.
one you're talking about. So this individual
Um,
was patrolling the public housing projects with his gun out and misfired and killed an innocent person.
Yeah. Now, there were some other, there were some extenuating circumstances. For instance, the maintenance on the building hadn't been really done. There were some issues with the lighting. But in the flood of all of the other things that were going on, like, I genuinely felt like he was used as a scapegoat.
Oh, he absolutely was.
Because for what happened, it's a tragedy. I will never downplay that it wasn't a tragedy, but he was a younger officer.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, he probably shouldn't have been out there alone.
Should not have been. Nope.
Especially because he was actively pursuing someone, and they did state several times who they were. And, you see something coming at you, you're a newer officer, you panic, things happen. It shouldn't have happened. It should have been well lit. The maintenance should have been done. But New York Housing Authority is also terrible about doing maintenance, which is a whole other issue, because that's just another example of how the government continues to just negatively impact marginalized minorities.
Absolutely.
Right. Because the living conditions in a lot of those housing projects aren't great. They're not great buildings. They're not maintained very well, and 90% of the time the elevators are broken, and you are probably on the 7th or 8th story up.
Those went from being some of the most racially diverse, like, public housing projects in the country in the 50s to becoming essentially, during the era of white flight, so this is especially for New York City, in which they built white-only towns on Long Island. All the white, like, families left those projects, and then they immediately fell into disrepair because there were no longer white families living there.
Yeah, it's because you look at it, right? And I swear, if you would have looked at any other officer that would have had the same situation a month prior, they would have had desk duty and a psych eval. And this guy got the entire book thrown at him.
Yeah, he was made to be the fall guy for an entire system that was rotten, from sending armed policemen into, like, the building stairwells of this building by himself. The over policing of that area, the lack of effective maintenance on the building. It created a scenario where, again, it became minority versus minority, rather than holding, like, the people in power accountable from the mayor's office all the way down.
Yeah.
Because it was just easier to say, well, it's this Asian guy's fault for, like, shooting his gun or having his gun go off.
It's you hear about these tragedies, and it's I always feel like they just don't get the amount of attention that they truly deserve for what they really bring to light. Because, like you said, like, between the training for that rookie, to that rookie being alone and armed, pursuing someone inside of a building that's not well maintained, right? To an area that's way over policed, because stop and frisk was still happening. It wasn't quote unquote endorsed anymore, but it sure as hell still happened.
It's not spoken about enough, but that was entirely not a hazing, but it was a way to scare rookies by making them patrol public housing by themselves and get them into this fearful mindset that, like, you know, you have to be hyper aware and you have to be like, this is like a war zone, and this is the warrior mentality of policing that manifested there. And it,
Yeah.
unfortunately, not everyone is cut out to police. No one should be policing in those conditions, but certainly not that officer, you know. And thankfully they no longer do that, but it took someone innocent dying and another person like having the whole weight of like the injustice that is policing thrown at him because of his mistake, like for that to like make positive things to happen. Just an energy check, guys, because we are hitting 3 hours, which is longer than I thought we were gonna go. um How are we feeling energy wise, and do you guys want to start to maybe wrap it up a little bit?
We can perhaps answer a few more questions, but I'm still good. I'm still
Okay,
good.
good to know. Good to know. We do have a couple
Yeah.
of questions that are specific to V. Yeah, go ahead, Yuichi.
I was gonna say you should know. I'm definitely good. I can keep going.
I figured.
I probably got like an hour tops because it's almost midnight.
That's fair.
Mhm.
Understandable.
Understandable. It is also close to 1 a.m. here. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good to go. Like I took the next 2 days off of work just to get over whatever this is, but I also am just realizing that I'm just grabbing Yuji now.
it's
fine.
Figured we'd just put a PNG in there. I mean, it could be worse. We could be just, yeah, you know.
No.
There we go. Let me move my face a little bit. There we go.
Now it's a manhwa.
Oh man, it's the bodyguard seducing the prince. I've seen enough dojis to know where this is going.
Just don't worry about it. Just let it happen.
As long as it's all consensual, man.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna ask you
Mhm.
guys this question and then use the restroom because I need to
Okay.
piss. So I'll be right back, but I'll ask this question before I go. So this is specifically about VTubing, and we will come back to some of the current events in the history real quick at the end also, because I didn't want to get too heavy, but I did really want to talk about stuff. And by the way, thank you guys for like, indulging me on that, because like that's something I'm very passionate about, and it's not something I can talk with a lot of people about either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's a more fun question. It's, do you think being Asian boosts your appeal as a VTuber? Have you ever leaned into your Asianness to promote yourself?
I know not what you mean.
I have no idea what you're talking about here.
Okay, the
definitely-
Korean white tiger and Jaja Horang are maybe
Oh,
perhaps a little
wrong,
guilty of
you
this.
wrong.
Be right back.
All right.
I mean, I don't know. Like for me at least, VTubing has been a way for me to really embrace my Korean heritage. Right. I don't necessarily use it to boost my views. Does it help? I'm sure it has helped. Just because, you know, between being multilingual and people asking for voice lines, right? People enjoy me just rumbling in their ear with whatever voice line they want, right? So there's an advantage there, but really, when I went into my design, I really wanted to choose something that was very specific to my background. So like with a Kanpei boss, instead of being a Yakuza boss, right? That's a difference that I like to like make sure that people understand. Changui being a more obscure, until the song came out, a more obscure spirit, right?
Yeah.
And really kind of finding my own comfort in my designs, whether it's my tattoos, because I am part Japanese as well. It's really going in and finding who I felt I was most comfortable with, because a lot of it is based off of me, because like I said, I'm 6'8". I do strongman, I do some bodybuilding as well, I do powerlifting. I'm not a crime boss, but you know, aesthetic wise and everything, like it was just I'd set that all up for like what I really wanted, and I'm sure that that's really helped. But I feel like that's also part of VTubing is, you know, people see you comfortable in who you portray, and then that brings a form of I can't think of the English word, kind of like a level of being genuine, right?
Authenticity.
Yes,
Yeah. Authenticity. That's a good word.
There's a level of authenticity that people can read, and that kind of helps with whatever vibe you're going for, you know.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of what Cootie said is something that I would say exactly of that kind of phrases. So for me, I'll talk about like answering that question specifically in this manner, in that do I think that being Asian helped me with my views? Well, let me first say this in a more I'm gonna be a little more critical of that question, right? Because it's almost too common for people to use an Asian theme when they're not Asian, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like I get less questions of if I'm actually Asian, and more people just accepting that I have an Asian theme or an Asian name. Like, I'm not saying this to call out any Asian themed VTubers who are not actually Asian. Go for it, right? Like, as long as you respect the culture and not do some ding dong things. But that
Exactly.
question,
Yeah, leave the ding dong things to me, bro.
Like, trust me, like we Asians, Asians themselves also fetishize our own culture. All right, like we're not saying don't use our culture for this and that. Just treat it with some respect, right? Don't fucking do like Asian squinting. Don't squat. Don't do the Asian squat.
Don't put an
things of
accent
that
on.
nature.
Yeah. Oh God, please.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest one.
Mhm.
But to answer the question, right? Do I think that me being Asian actually helped me? No. Like if anything, that's like in my opinion, that's like a second afterthought, because again, it's too common for people to use an Asian name when they're not Asian. It's almost a norm because of how VTubers originated from, well, Japan, right? So, and even before Japan, a lot, like 70-80% of VTubers have come from some kind of role-playing background, and I promise you they used some Japanese sounding name for their characters, for their OC at one point or another, right? And it's become such like an afterthought of, hey, should I use an Asian name even though I'm not Asian, to, well, doing it here. I met the widest individuals who have no idea about the significance of their Asian names, right? And for the most part, that's fine. People listen to K-pop, they're not Asian. People love K-dramas, people love anime. That's like not the point of like disparaging anyone from using said cultural significance. But to say that we expect to be Asian boosting our views, it doesn't happen. I was happy to change my name from Sume, my first original name, Sume, to Horang, something more Korean, because it felt more natural to me. It felt more right.
Mhm.
But it doesn't quite help that the idea that I'm getting more views specifically because people now know that I'm actually Korean, right? It's almost I'm pretty sure the person who asked this didn't mean anything by it, right? But it almost feels not fetishizing, but what's the word?
I asked the question. It's my question.
Damn it, Edra.
Well, my point still stands.
His point stands stronger.
Yeah, it's even.
No,
in
it's
fact,
not
it's
meant to be an
even
adversarial
stronger.
question. It's really more
No.
about like, did you
Having
think
dialogue.
that, like, did you
Hmm.
find that you being Asian is part of your appeal? And I
Okay,
will
let
say
me-
for
let me
you, my
dial-
friend, is that when we first rated it to you, I'm like, oh, this is an Asian guy. I'm sticking around. I want to hear what he has to say.
All right, let me dial it back a little bit then, right? It's like it's like to me the question can sound fetishizing, right? But I don't particularly mind it if people watch me specifically because I'm Asian, right? Like hell, like let's use K-pop for example. Like, would you watch the actual Korean K-pop star or the white K-pop star? No, people are gonna naturally want to watch the actual Korean K-pop star, right? And I don't think that's racist. I don't think that's like prejudice or anything in that way. It's just naturally how you want that authentic kind of feel. But in my instance, I don't think that being authentically Asian helped boost anything in terms of interactions and whatnot because I'm still doubling down on this because of how much of an afterthought it is if people are actually like, you know, the if they are actually like their cultural like their I can't find the right words.
You were also
if they
raising
actually
up-
are what they are.
You were also rizzing up a female VTuber at the time, so I'm like, all right, this is interesting. I want to watch this.
He's remembering the entire thing right now. He's reliving the moment.
Wait, which female?
I'll
wait, was it
DM you
my-
which one it was.
Okay.
Let me not use my PC because then it's going to show on screen because I have mic up on screen share.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't particularly mind if I'm rizzing up someone and say, "Hey, yo."
No, it was
Yo.
interesting because I'm like, oh, this is like an Asian dude, like with a lot of riz, like talking to this lady. I want to see like what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So that was your appeal to me. I'm like, oh shit, this guy is interesting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Was actually when you changed your name was part of the reason why I started noticing you more, along with the fact that, like I said, when I saw your model and everything, I was like, that is a smart dressed gentleman. I fucking love it.
And you know, that actually, you know, after you just reminded me of like another point I wanted to bring up. It goes the other way too, you know. Some Asian people will use like the most widest or the most like American. Sometimes I've seen some people use like Middle Eastern type names, right? And you know, it goes to show that at the end of the day, you know, it goes both ways. So answering the question once again, do I think it helped me? I personally didn't know it did, but apparently it has.
Yeah,
I
could
I
happen.
think a better way to rephrase that is I personally never thought of it that way, right? I think that's a better way to say it. I just never thought of it that way because of how second place I see that people actually are Asian behind an Asian name, that they're actually Asian or that they're actually Middle Eastern behind a Middle Eastern name, white behind a white name, you know, things of that nature. Right. So that's just like personally how I saw things, you know. After you said you saw me or you followed me because I was Asian, I didn't ever think of that way. I'm not faulting you for that either, right? In fact, thank you. You know, it's how do I say? I feel like I sort of gave the wrong tone when I started this.
You've been on a whole
Like,
journey this entire time.
Yeah, I didn't mean to sound so confrontational, right? I just meant
Or
that
defensive.
yeah, I didn't mean to sound so defensive, right? It's just like I just never personally saw it in that regard.
That's
right. This
valid.
question
Valid.
is new to me personally. But now it's been revealed, now I have a broader perspective of this sort of thing. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
some
you
people
know-
watch me because I'm Asian, and I am proud of that. I'm not saying don't do that, right?
People
It's
gravitate
like,
to VTubers for different reasons. It is what it is.
Mhm. Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. But
So
yeah,
you-
that's my take on it.
Yeah. For me, I think it's a little bit different for
Mhm.
the fact that I do the old Asian uncle thing,
Yeah,
and
Yuichi's Asian as fuck.
yeah. So it's like I just channel the old generation, and I don't act that way normally, and people find humor with it, just like how they had the whole Uncle Roger thing. I actually people started calling me Uncle because of Uncle Roger, because I've always done that accent. It was actually there's two reasons. One, it's because it's just literally how I speak. It's like my accent I used to speak Vietnamese, just applied to English. So it's just a slight modification. Just like when I try to speak Japanese, I try to use a more Japanese accent.
Mm.
I can't do that with Japanese, but I can do it more with Vietnamese because I'm more used to it. Plus, I grew up with more Vietnamese American sounding, so it's a lot easier for me to pop that through. And I would do it as a joke sometimes because when I get heated, sometimes it just comes out. I'm just like, I just go full uncle, and I'm like, it's like little phrases like, "What the hell you talking about?" It's like, "What you mean you don't wash your rice?" It's just simple stuff that just kind of slips out when you get angry.
Yeah.
And people start calling me uncle, and I'm like, "No, I'm not your uncle, all right?" Because I was younger. I didn't want to be the older generation yet. I was like, please let me stay be one of the kids for a little bit longer, right? I only got so much time left. And eventually I just kind of grew with it. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Fine. Call me uncle. I'm just people be like he him. I'm he him uncle now. But people love it.
So
I unfortunately owe like 12 of these.
you had 12 nieces and nephews now?
No, I owe 12 uncle streams. I've lost count of my nieces and nephews. I'm so many now.
Similar question to Mike, but Mike not a VTuber yet. But Mike, why specifically "quote unquote" Asian Mike? I'm wondering.
Oh, so
That's a good.
yeah. So there's a backstory to this.
Ooh.
So it's not bad. It's not bad. So again, I mentioned before, I'm kind of from the South. That's where I grew up, and not a lot of Asian people in the South. Surprise, surprise. And for some really weird reason, throughout middle school and high school, I somehow ended up getting into a group of other mics. And so it was like really hard to keep track of who was who when you're in a group of people that all have the same first name. And we're talking about 5 mics in total. And
The
so
meeting of the mics.
yeah. So like
Hey, Mike. Yeah, no.
yeah, all of us are out, yeah.
I mean,
And-
Asian Mike.
yeah, so like one of them was like he did magic, so he was Magic Mike. Now
Let's
granted,
go.
this is
My
this is
God.
before this is before the movie. This is before the movie.
Oh,
so, like,
okay.
Yeah, this is before the movie, so no one had any idea. Like he did like card tricks and like other stuff.
Oh,
and
does he
then-
now have XSL after his name now?
Maybe I should check on him. There was one named Magic Mike. I was Asian Mike. There was another Mike. His name was Palm Water because he was originally from New Orleans. He was
I
from
thought
New
you
Orleans.
literally called him another Mike.
No. So
I
Palm Water, Palm Water Mike. Then there was Butter Knife Mike, and he never told us the story behind his name. He never told us. It was just like I asked him, and it's like, hey man, like why are you called Butter Knife Mike? And he's just like, it's a long story. I don't want to tell you.
You know what that reminds me of? The Ratatouille meme was like, I killed a man with this thumb.
Could have. He could have.
Oh,
He
no.
he was kind of like he was more of like the quiet mics amongst the group. He didn't talk as much. So
Wait, so you guys picked your own title?
There were all like nicknames that we had, and mine was never really developed until like middle school. I just went by Mike, but I never had a group of friends that were all with the same name, so we just like picked mine, and they already had theirs. Two of them were friends beforehand. And then the other Mike, we just call him Motorbike Mike because he had a motorcycle.
You know, it's kind of
wait.
funny. We actually had the same system for mics and another name too. The one of them was funny because we called them R1 and R2. Back in the day, there used to be this thing called DVDs, and depending on the region of your disc, you would have to be only certain machines could play them.
Oh, I
regions.
remember those. Yeah, region
So-
locks.
Region
Yep,
mics.
that's why there was R1 and R2. There was the Asian, the Asian, the white guy. So R1 was the white guy, and R2 was the Asian because the regions.
That's
When they-
amazing.
Yeah, when they told me that, oh yeah, this is R1's R2. I didn't question it for a while. I'm like, why are they called R1 and R2? It doesn't make any sense. And they told me, and I'm like, you guys are freaking brilliant.
Yeah. So that's where like my nickname came from. And then ever since then I've just carried it forward. I never thought of it anything other than that. And to be honest, like I said, like it didn't bother me that they identified me as like the Asian Mike of the group because it was just the easiest thing to say.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Nowadays,
good.
nowadays it's like, do I call you Asian or do I call you Mike? Because if I call you Asian, it sounds very bad. It's like, just call me Mike. It's fine. And-
Yeah, hey, Asian.
Yeah.
Hey, Asian.
No.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So like, yeah, I in reference to this question, I don't. I mean, the only reason why I have an egg as my avatar is because I like eggs. And it's I really like this one Pikachu plush that's like a couple $100 now. You can't really get it anymore. So I was like, I wanted something that was like kind of cute that reminisced from something like that. And it was quite unassuming because like Atra said,
Mhm.
my model does not represent what I kind of look like.
Wait, so you're not a yoke?
No, I'm not like a 2-foot yoke with a old school Microsoft gaming headset. And
Expectations have been not met. It's sad.
reality broken.
Immersion
It-
break, not a yeg.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm called an egg half the time, so I get you.
Hey, bald gang, rise up. I agree with like everybody here, to be honest. Like, I don't really try and leverage it. And I don't think there is anything from my perspective that really leverages that culture and that aesthetic. Maybe in the future I'll do it, but like right now it's just kind of just doing my own thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the kind of privilege that we Asian people can do. It's like we can make fun of our own, like we can make fun of our own memes, right? Like I have a friend, shout out to my boy. His name is Dr. Rice.
Oh, I know Dr. Rice.
Yeah. He's one of the most intelligent people I know, but he specifically had the most stereotypically Asian name, but that's the right given to him as an Asian. If anyone else did that, like if like a white dude went and said that he's Asian Mike, and yeah, we're gonna have problems, you know?
Mhm.
But like he went Asian, he went Dr. Rice, so we can laugh at that because we know he's Asian.
Well, bro is still a doctor, so he's made it.
True.
That is
True. He the doctor.
He a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer.
He's astronaut Johnny Kim. But a
Brings
VTuber.
a quote with rice.
True.
I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Like, I do consider my role as an Asian, as a YouTuber, to like be the Asian American like sex symbol. If that sounds weird, but like, part of doing what I do is to reclaim like the desexualization of Asian men, and to sort of prove to both myself and to the world that we can be sexy too and attractive, have good voices. Well, you guys know about the good voice thing, but like, you know. it's
These
part of
guys are-
the journey to sort of like reclaim that, because this is a society that's desexualized for us for a long time.
Mhm.
Hmm.
No, I can understand that. Yellow fever was legitimately a thing, and it still is. But it kind of feels weird when other people go out of their way to specifically identify us only because we're Asian, right? And it's like it's how do I say? It's both. I guess it depends on the context, right? But it can either be empowering or depowering,
That's true.
right? It's like our conversation with the movie actors, right? Just because they're Asian, they have to be the stoic, like sensei, or or like the kick-ass martial artist, or that stereotypical Asian, like.
Exactly.
But other times, when people say like, "Oh, you're Asian, bro. I love you guys. I'm a like hit you up."
Oh yeah.
Also, bro, have my back when I get jumped. That feels good. That's like you can
Yeah.
laugh about that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm gonna draw a really cool picture of them beating your ass. Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
So I feel like sometimes it depends on context, but for the most part, it can be either or.
Yeah. When it comes to sex work, like, you at the end of the day want to choose to what extent you are fetishized, because it is a fetishizing industry. And that can be taken away from you if you're fetishized in a way you don't want to be. I totally get it. Yeah. Not to get too much
Yeah,
into
and
sex work, because this is not the depths, but
Hey, I mean, male masculinity within sex work, we could talk about that, Well, that wouldn't be a bad conversation, to be
we're
honest.
on that episode.
I know.
He wants to revisit the topic.
I guess so.
It's like I have more words to say.
It was my not so subtle hint at Atro.
It's like round two.
Chat, I'm going to give you one final chance to ask our panel some questions, by the way, before we start to wrap things up. I want to keep it to at minimum 4 hours. Maximum 4 hours, sorry.
Yeah.
But while we're waiting on that, is there any aspect of your heritage that you've included in your OC?
Twiga.
Taiga?
Wrong. Like Cootie and I know, tigers have a significance in Korean culture, right? It's often used for like a variety of symbolism for strength or a national kind of thing. I believe the Korean Olympics featured a tiger mascot, for example, right? There's a famous story from China about the tiger and the fox that got adapted to a Korean folktale about the sun shower fox rain, right? And of that sorts. I've always liked tigers over lions, and to find out that, I'm not gonna lie, it took me until the VTuber community to realize that tigers had, when I did more research, that tigers had a lot more significance in Korea than I thought. So I thought naturally I just want to like fit into this, So I I didn't want to be just a bald guy. So I decided to spice things up a little bit by adding that tiger, in me.
Got that taiga in me.
Exactly. Although I wouldn't know how like Cootie specifically thought of his tiger approach.
I mean, yeah, it's yes, basically. I mean, overall, it's I am very Korean.
He's been Korean his whole life.
Yep. And yeah, no, it's when it comes to design, like, I mean, Chungwi White Tiger, which also has its own significance, right? You also have Kangpei, which is also another thing that's culturally significant, because organized crime wasn't actually very big, and it's very different in Eastern Asia, like roots wise, right? And yeah, just honestly, I tried to to bring a lot of myself and my culture into my design. So it's just
Funny
it's
thing,
very Korean.
the first like mini bossy fight in Wolong is a Changui. I just remember like playing it on stream.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And screaming
yeah.
at
Wait,
chat like, "This is what cutie is. This is what cutie is." Oh, I'm dead.
Wait, which game? Which game?
Wolong,
Wulong.
Wolong. It's
Wolong.
it's like a
Fallen
Souls like
Dynasty?
game. Yeah, it's a Souls like game based in like Three Kingdoms China. Which, if you have any like
Oh.
affinity to like Dynasty Warriors, you will cream your pants with like just fanboying, because that's what I did.
And Chongui was featured there. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting enough.
Well,
I
well, to be
remember
honest, every Asian came from China, so there's bound to be some overlap.
I don't know what the
Okay,
story thing was, but I think it like just from the spirit realms, like all these like mythical creatures coming into the real world, something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I know that I was actually waiting for Wolong for a long time. So when it finally came out, I kind of screamed, and I played it on stream like immediately, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I got so attached to how pretty it was that I didn't even realize it was a Chongui.
Yeah, no, it was Chongui. That game beat my ass. It was so hard.
It was so hard. Oh god.
Mm.
Here's a
no,
question. Oh, go ahead, Cutie.
No, I was just gonna say, I was like, yeah, no, just I put all of my Koreanness into it.
Before we move on, Mike Yuichi, any thoughts on? Well, probably not Mike, because Mike's an egg. But no offense, Mike.
None taken.
But how about
There's-
you, Yui?
There's actually very little, because honestly, from my knowledge of my own culture, the only two things that really would be put out would be, one is the aoyai that everyone knows. Usually you see women wear the aoyai. You don't really see the males wear it as much,
Hmm.
I've noticed. Granted, I do not like how the males look with the aoyai. I do not like the fact that we don't have a belt.
Hmm.
The belt. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't go with the aoyai. The other thing was the hat, the
The rice
you,
field
you know
hat,
the
the conical hat.
the right,
Yeah.
yeah, that actually was something I was going to add in later on, but we were talking about it with my designer, and I decided to, because of the mask, to go against it,
Hmm.
because the mask would make it very awkward, and the mask was something I wanted to keep for reasons of why I have that mask.
You know, the hat,
Mhm.
the conical hat thing is interesting, because like I've been conditioned to think it's extremely stereotypical, like it's in every racist depiction of an Asian person. And then
Mhm.
like my family and I went to Vietnam at some point like a couple years ago. My mom picked one up and she loved it and she wore it. I'm like, wait, mom, don't wear that. I'm like, wait a second. Because they're just like random Vietnamese ladies just walking around wearing it like normal, and they're like, "Oh, nice hat." I'm just like, "Oh, okay." Like, what am I
Actually,
doing? Yeah,
you know
like,
what's funny? Yeah, like when it comes, there's a whole thing about like cultural appropriation, right?
mm,
Like I don't want to get too into it because I know we're trying to wrap it up, but when it comes to like cultural appropriation, it's like you can wear our clothes, you can wear like this and that without feeling like you're out of place. Like hell, you go to Koreatown in a full hanbok, people are not going to make fun of you. You go to, I even
They
saw a
might.
video of like well, it depends how you wear it, right? They'll be
Fair.
judgmental as shit, but they're gonna be happy that you wore a
because
hanbok.
why are you wearing a
right?
hanbok in Koreatown?
These most people think it's cute. I'm like, oh look, they're wearing.
Okay, you know
wearing
what?
a
You
garb."
you make a fair point, but what I'm saying is you can
That's
do that
sarcasm.
stuff, okay? Like I even saw a video over like I for the lack of a better term, Mexico Town, right?
Mm.
And I see these people, wearing the sombrero and the stereotypical like maracha kind of thing
serape.
with the mustache, right?
Mhm.
You think that'd be a little offensive, but they went to Mexico Town and all the Hispanics were like, "Hey, nice mustache, hombre." Right?
It's like that Speedy Gonzalez thing where people are like, "What are you getting rid of Speedy Gonzalez for? We love him."
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's like it doesn't have to be cultural appropriation. It could be cultural appreciation. Like the only people who are gonna get upset is when you're obviously like fucking, treating like dirt.
Oh, Indian
Yeah.
people love it when you wear like Indian clothes. Like they fucking love. They eat that shit up. They're
Mhm,
like, "Ooh, you're wearing your.
mhm.
Ooh, let me take a picture with you." Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like I feel like a lot of people confuse cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. Even the particular even the particular like culture people that I'm sorry, that's a weird phrasing. How do I say, like, the people who also are getting mixed are the people of that culture, if that makes sense.
I think it comes from a place of I was made fun of this when I was younger for wearing this or eating
Mhm.
this or like being associated with this, and now it's cool, and I hate that because now you don't
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
suffer like I did.
Yeah. Like I've also went through that phase, right? Where I was like, that's not fair, right? That's not fucking fair. Like, how are you gonna eat ramen in front of me when you said all it does is smell like shit, right? But after a
How are you
while I
gonna have kimchi
realized
sliders when you made fun of my kimchi when I was younger?
exactly,
Exactly. Oh my god.
exactly.
For real.
Hell, I saw a vid. I just saw like a recent post, like some UK dude's mother was making kimchi, and I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
Hey, if they pull it off right though, it's nice.
Nope, it was green and black.
I was saying it. That's why I said if.
Oh god. Oh god. I remember seeing that.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
I've seen
like,
that.
Oh.
It's like they try to use fish paste, but they didn't realize how much they were using. From what I was reading, like,
My soul is hurting right now.
like they're trying to make vegan kimchi, which I'm like, just don't include the shrimp, then you're good. But
Then it's vegan, yeah.
yeah, but I digress. Right? I digress. Like for the most part, I particularly brought this up because I just read the message about like the Kitsune OC thing.
Mm.
It's like you don't have to feel bad about using kitsune, and obviously Japanese
Yeah.
creature, or even like a sorry, what's the Korean version of a kitsune again? Missing at the top of my head.
Shoot, I just saw the name like a little bit ago
Kumio.
too.
Gumio,
It's a
Gumio, yeah.
Gumio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could use a Gumio as part of your lore, right? Like again, all we ask is
Oh,
you
is that where she
appreciate it.
got the name from?
hmm
I know
Yeah,
a
you see
Korean
some people that's
YouTuber named Kumiho. I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah. Some of them just have like their names are just straight Gumio, and I don't blame them for this. I'm just fucking Horong. That literally means tiger. So I do not at all like, but that's what I mean. Like we're here saying, we can laugh about that, but I know other Koreans will be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, man? Right? So
Mm.
it's a lot of like I get it where you're coming from a place of hurt, but if we really want people to appreciate it, we gotta look past it, ask them to respect it, and enjoy it with them. That way we get more Korean fan art.
That was beautifully put until you mentioned the fan art.
So that was the long play.
The
I was
long
gonna say, so
I feel
can
like
we
there's a
just be
secondary
happy if the other
thing.
people are happy?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think the second part of that is stop being offended for other people.
Yes.
Like,
Mhm.
I didn't like if you as someone that's not a part of the Korean community see something that you feel like is offensive to Koreans, but
Mhm.
Koreans aren't saying anything, it's more than likely not offensive to us.
Mhm.
So don't try to be offended for us, please.
But yeah, I get that. And then let me put another perspective, right? This is something that pissed me off actually a couple years ago when I first started VTubing. There was a young woman who was using like the Chinese like money lucky frog, right, as her VTuber design. And this one Chinese individual, straight up went to her DMs and told her everything that looked wrong, felt wrong, and was wrong about her design. And, for the most part, I understand, like, if you feel like it's being misrepresented, but this Chinese person had no,
Oh no!
He's out. He didn't want to hear this.
He was like, I was that guy in the DMs.
Yeah, I'm calling this motherfucker out. But yeah, well, I'm just to wrap it up, I guess. Like, it's just like I didn't appreciate the way that she was more or less attacking the individual who's using the Chinese inspiration, right? Like there are better ways to communicate what you didn't like about it. And the thing is, from what I saw, it's not like they were disrespecting. They put a lot of research into it, right?
Mm.
But it can be always like such a thin line between appreciation and appropriation. It's not always that easy. And sometimes I get it mixed up, right? So it's just never an easy thing to do.
Never hurts to do your research, honestly, if you're gonna be
Mhm.
picking something from another culture, and understand that certain concepts cannot be made into like
Yeah.
VTuber designs.
Yeah,
There are
like I
some
know
things
there
out there
was
that is very, like, especially to indigenous people. There's some things out there you should not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the ego, for example.
exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to say the full thing because I know that's very taboo in our
Correct.
culture.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't honestly know that until Tay mentioned it. And so like ever since then I'm like, ooh, yeah, maybe don't do that. Like if it's something positive, then go for it. But if it's something negative, maybe do not. But yeah, that's just my take on the whole like appropriation versus appreciation thing.
Good take. Good take.
Kind of. Thank you. Yeah, it kind of ties up to what we talked about earlier, like how non-Asian people are using Asian names. Just learn as much as you do. Be valid to criticism, but never feel like just because another person of that culture tells you exactly like what you're. Wait, hold on. Let me rephrase that. Never feel like one person is the representative of everyone, right? Because if you're not sure about the culture you're being inspired from, ask around. 3 heads are better than 2. 5 heads are better than 3.
And be open to
just ask
listening too.
people.
Because if someone does come to you, don't be like, oh, well, my Asian friend says that's just okay. Like, you gotta listen.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta listen.
But yeah, it's like some things are just not allowed. Respect that. Some things are allowed. It's just all sorts of things. Although,
great point.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like I feel like the reason why Asian culture is like most popular is just because like there's a lot of good things to be inspired from. There's so many things. That's why we don't really say anything.
Yeah.
Like there's very little taboos that we specifically forbid you to do.
That being said, don't make your VTuber any Hindu gods. That's gonna be a big problem.
Oh yeah. No, actually, this is something I was gonna say like very early on. I still think it's okay per se, just because I've asked around. But in the beginning, like I actually wanted to go by Ashura, right? Because I love the mythological name. But one person said, "No, that's my god. Don't do that." And
well, that's kind of a minor one, though. That one's just a big deal. You could probably get away with that one, I think.
Yeah. And my point was like I kind of realized like you can't, just pick any fucking name like that either, because I realized it's like how do we say? It's like being a steak VTuber as an Indian person, right? Like that's taboo all over there, right? So
more like a mistake.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
They'll have a lot of beef with you.
You know what? That was such a raw statement. I take it back.
Cootie's never going back.
No, he's not.
This is what happens when you leave us, Cootie. I'm back.
It just falls apart.
No, but great comment in the chat about performative allyship. Like, we don't need more performative allies. We need you to listen to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will ask my wrap up question, and we'll hopefully Cootie will be back by then. But Cootie, please. Looking into the future, if you were to have a son, what image of Asian American men would you hope that he sees growing up?
I guess I'll start with me, right?
Yeah.
This might sound a bit egotistical, but me. So I hope he uses me as his Asian American influence. And the reason I say that is because my own father was my biggest role model. You know, going back to our first question, right?
Mm.
He was my role model for good and bad reasons. He taught me what to do and what not to do, right? Whether by his own admission or things I've learned by himself. So for me, I hope that he takes what I teach him and learns for himself what's good and what's bad, right? To learn from my positive influences, but to also learn from my mistakes and don't repeat the negative influences that I imparted. That's yeah. I'd like him to be his own man, listening to what his values are between right and wrong.
Yeah,
So
I think the chat's agreeing with you. That's a great ambition to be your the role model of your kids, essentially.
Yeah. No, that's a good. I don't think it's egotistical at all.
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially when you're
Yeah,
doing
so-
your own thing, trailblazing your own path, and like if you're doing online content creation, if you're being an entertainer, if you're breaking out from like the mold that society expects you to have as an Asian guy, like
Mhm. Yeah, and by all means, he's more than free to like look at other Asian influences as well. You know, I'm not the only person. There's gonna be multiple people that he meets, whether it's from his friends, celebrities, you know, Bruce Lee, like anyone that really comes to his path. I just hope that at the end of the day, he becomes a man that can be proud to be both Asian and American. If he doesn't want to live in America, then you know that's also fine by me.
return to the motherland.
But all I can say is, you know, or what I will wrap up as saying is that he's someone who can be proud to be both Asian and American. He can he can work with his own values and not be discouraged from any of the toxicity that can happen within either culture, you know.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
No, that's very well said, Dancho.
Thank you.
Yuichi, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think this question's a very hard one for me because I always believe that each child needs to be raised a different way. Just because you've raised one child one way and it worked does not mean it's going to work for the same child. Or the next child. The ideal path or the most ideal path is going to be something that you'd have to figure out as it goes. I'm not sure if I can figure out what it would be best for the next generation, but I certainly hope that I'd be able to. It's very hard to break away from how I was raised. I know very well deep in my heart I would probably do some similarities, but at the same token, just like how I say with the whole thing with like how I act as uncle, like I tell them I'm proud of them. I would do the same as a father. I would, because sometimes positive reinforcement's a nice thing, y'all.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, there's only so much negative reinforcement we can take to break somebody. But the same token, some people need that.
Hmm.
Some people need that.
Hmm.
It's
I
just
think
a
it's
matter
really
of figuring.
important to put like a better form of Asian masculinity out there, one that is nurturing and affirming, you know.
Hmm.
And it's up to
That's-
this generation to model it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to what the next generation would do. I can see the change. I feel like I'm in the
Toby.
middle, and it's keep on improving. That's what
Hmm.
we always are trying to do. We improve upon from the previous generation, learn from where the previous generation faltered, and grow stronger.
Very well put.
Hmm.
Welcome back, Cootie.
Thank you. I had to say screw it because the app version of Discord did not want to work, so I am now on the browser version.
You know,
I'm
you are
having a
somehow
night.
louder and clearer on the browser version.
Yeah.
I am very confused.
Maybe you should just start using the browser version from now on.
Maybe. You know, it's kind of interesting where it was, I think, last week while I was on my break, I got tagged by like a ridiculous amount of people in this picture of Don Lee, where
Oh,
he's wearing
yes.
this blue.
I tagged you in there.
Yeah, I noticed. He's wearing this blue suit with white pinstripes, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
holding a Hello Kitty phone with Hello Kitty slippers on. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if I do have a child, I would want to be a positive force of masculinity for them, where it's like I work on my own cars, I do all of my own repairs around the home, I do a lot of lifting, I try to be adaptable and kind of be, someone that, anyone could ask questions for, and, I'll be there for them, whether if it's in my specialty or not. At the very least, to be an ear to listen to, right? Just a safe space for people to be in, just to be heard. And I want to be that for my children. Where male or female doesn't matter to me, but just giving that positive image of male masculinity that it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to vent them out in a healthy way and to figure out what those healthy ways can be, while also being able to control your feelings, right? Like, it's not bad to control them, but just know when to let them go, right? And then to really help them not make the same mistakes that I made growing up, I feel like is going to be the big thing. Like, I want to have that, like we talked about earlier, like how many I love yous and I'm proud of yous if we've gotten growing up. I'm sure most of us can count them on one hand if we need a hand.
It's more of that, like, if you hear the "I love you," something's fucking wrong. They got fucking an illness or a death
like
threatening,
someone's about to die, like,
yeah, it's like, oh
never
no.
like really a good thing, right?
Mhm.
But being able to do that in a positive way where they feel seen and heard, like that's the idea of Asian masculinity that I want to bring out, where it's, you can be strong inside of, your stoicism, but at the same time find those proper ways to let out your emotions when you need to, and you don't have to look a certain way. You just find the skin that you're comfortable in, and go from there, right? Because not everybody has the genetics to be, twig thin and look like a K-pop idol, and not everybody has the genetics to be a 6'8", and then just
This
about as
motherfucker's
wide guy, right?
bragging.
I'm just saying, like, everybody is different, and what's more important is realizing how special you are and being able to embrace that.
Very well put, Cootie.
Yeah, you fucking 6'8" monster.
Let's go to Mike. And Mike, any thoughts about the question?
I think everybody's kind of hit the nail on the head. I don't really have much to contribute, just to say, look, hey, I want them to feel comfortable leaning into their heritage and culture if they want to, but I would prefer them to not feel beholden to it or feel restricted and experience more cultures and ideals. I've been very fortunate enough to travel mostly because
Holy
of work.
shit.
Oh
Sorry,
my
I
god.
just... Oh my god.
Asher, what are you doing? Chill out.
Dude, are you still 6'8"? I think you took it over.
No, it's just I would like for them to experience life and grow up in an environment that is very supportive in what endeavors they want to do. I don't feel like I have to, no, you do it this way and you have to no, that's I don't really necessarily agree with that, because it's a very stifling environment to grow up in, and it's doesn't breed creativity. And that's something that, you know, I want to ensure that gets cultivated for my kids, is that there's a sense of realism, but there's also a sense of wonder that, like, you can do these things that are creative and different and experience, you know, life, not be restricted.
Fantastically put, I'd say.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
Really, what I'm gathering is that, as it's said in the chat also by Amber, that there has to be a commitment to breaking generational trauma and just doing it better. Like, we've gotten pretty far with the boost that, like, people who come before us have given us, whether it is the folks who first put down roots in this country and fought for the right to become American citizens, to the people that fought the court cases, to the people that fought for civil rights, to our own parents coming to this country and trying to make a better life for themselves. Like, we are very much on the shoulders of giants, but we're not beholden to them, because we can make it even better going forward. We can be better Asian men. We can move the culture forward, and do so in a way across many platforms, including VTubing.
Indeed.
I've been your host, AtramentumX, Fry Streamer and LootTuber. This is the first of 4 episodes in API month, in which we'll be talking about various API issues. Episode 2 will be on the 22nd, and it will focus on the OG Asian American content creators and the content creators of today that are inspired by them. Episode 3 will be about dating, relationships, and mental health. Episode 4 will be about being queer and Asian, and that will lead as our bridge into a Pride Month. But before we go, I want to give our lovely gentleman here first a massive round of applause. Thank you guys for staying double the time that I asked you to, by the way. Extra credit. I appreciate it.
Extra credit? Oh, that gives us little tingles.
Yes,
We love the extra credit. It helps that everybody here is absolutely lovely. You're all great.
I just want to note that I took every extra credit in class. I've never skipped one.
Same.
The extra credit's like hearing free or buy one get one free. It's like, what extra credit?
Dude, for real.
I know.
Before we go, I want to give our lovely panel here a chance to plug themselves. So let me know what you've got going on, whether it's streams, projects, comms, or whatever you've got going on. Starting with Cootie.
Hi everybody. So as some of you guys got to see early inside the stream, I technically did a sneak peek debut tonight of my new model, but that's going to be in a little while. My next big project is going to be Running for Daylight. It's basically a new Dead by Daylight tournament series based on hide and seek. I should be posting a promotional material in the next week for it. It should be a lot of fun with a lot of the VTuber Dead by Daylight content content creators out there. So it's a new way to breathe some life into the game and play it a little bit differently that I think a lot of people will enjoy.
D&D, D&D, DBD, D&D, DBD, D&D.
Look, I've already played
D&D.
Vecna. He's very strong, and it's gonna get worse for Survivor mains, man. It is rough. Like, I'm a killer main. I don't care. I play Oni.
I feel that.
Thank you so much, Cootie. Cootie, I was really looking forward to speaking to you today, especially about these sort of issues, because I know we talked about it a bit last API month, and it was really good to sort of have that one-on-one sort of talk today too, as well.
Yeah, no, it's not very often that I get to speak on those issues, just because you know, we talked about it earlier. It only lasts for about half a week, right? So it's actually nice to be able to like bring it up inside of a forum and get a lot of people speaking about it and bring up awareness. So thank you so much for inviting me. It's truly been enjoyable to spend time with everybody here tonight.
Absolutely, and thank you for putting up with A, being sick, B, technical issues. Like you've faced every adversity possible to be here, and I appreciate it.
It was definitely worth it. Thank you for dealing with them.
Of course, of course. Yui, what you got going on?
I don't really think I got much. I work, I stream. That's all I do. I don't have anything special going on right now. My last thing that was special already passed back in January. So, yeah, I don't really think I have anything.
This is Meandering Otaku. He's not going to promote himself because I'm going to do it for him. He is hilarious, he is kind, he is funny, he is generous, and he is overall a really cool dude. Check him out, check out his uncle streams, he's hilarious. And as a fellow geriatric, I'm joking, as a fellow older VTuber, it is always good to support and boost folks in this community who are above 24. No reason for picking that number specifically, definitely not related to Twitter.
Hopefully not.
But thank you so much, Yui. I really treasured having you here and having your perspective, man.
I mean, it's like I said, it's a complete honor for it to be invited by you. I was talking about it at work too. I'm like, I was telling the girls, I'm like, yo, got invited to a podcast.
Absolutely, dude. Doncho, what you got going on?
I'm surviving.
Do I have to promote you too?
No, I'm kidding. All right.
Freaking
So,
Asians, man.
See, now I feel like the weird one because I actually said something. Damn it, I don't want to be first next time.
No, you are normal.
So, I am Danju Hodang, but I have been in a hiatus since the start of January due to conflicting career paths and choices, lack of job, and overall just trying to survive in this economy. But there's also the good news in that once I am back, we are going full throttle and I'm not going anywhere. So while the wait is long, I promise it'll all be worth it at the end. Check me out on my Discord where I try to be more active as long as you play and admit yourself into the cult of Limbus company. Then we will get along fine. I also make a lot of memes and sometimes I don't post at all on Twitter. So if you want to see my active thoughts, see my head shine a lot more, then y'all know where to find me.
Thank you so much, Doncho. Doncho, obviously taking the torch on from last year, last year's API sort of talk show that we had, which I'm glad to sort of continue the tradition. And of course, it's always lovely to hear from you, man.
Yeah, I cannot post said AAPI for a very specific reason. But if I ever do it again next time, it would be a swell moment to do.
Absolutely, dude. Mike, what you got going on?
Let's see. So I actually started working on another PNG tuber for Hades. Been playing the hell out of Hades 2. So I'm
Ooh.
gonna try and do a stream this weekend. Hopefully beat the final boss. I'm mostly active on Twitter. If you want to see some design or shit posts, that's where I'm the most active is on Twitter. I don't stream much. I really don't, but I might start taking it up because my manager, actually the client is giving me problems because she's like, "You're my boss. You need to stream too." It's like I don't want to, but she's trying to get me to do it. So I appreciate the support. Thank you for having me on here, and it was great talking to all of y'all. I hope to collab or do something again in the future because this was a great time for sure.
Thank you so
That would be
much,
amazing.
Mike. Yeah, it was amazing. We had a lot of fun having you on and hearing your perspective. Thank you, genuinely.
you.
Yeah, this has been whatever this is. API VTuber Voices Talk. I want to thank everybody in chat for like hanging out, asking questions, and giving us your attention. We really do appreciate it.